Chapter 4903. This is my negligence. Wenjin turned to look at the disciples of the Wen clan. The disciples of the Wen clan also looked at Yuehua innocently. They didn't dare to tell Yuehua everything about the Wen clan. But Yuehua didn't tell Xiaohua. Yuehua hurriedly said, "I don't blame Senior Wen. It's all my fault for not telling Senior Zhang everything." Senior. Wenjin naturally wouldn't blame Yuehua. He smiled and said, "We are disciples of the Wen clan of the Water Cloud Nation. Our clan belongs to the Purple Chin Immortal Alliance of the Tao Alliance. Our clan leader is a Mahayana realm cultivator named Wen Qingfan. This time, we brought some juniors and nephews to the edge of the Yilin continent and were lucky enough to meet Senior. Let's not talk about the disciples' gains. With the Xiahong Mountain Auction House, we've already done a great service for the Wen clan. Oh, no, with Senior's spiritual root selection method, we've already done 2 great services." At this point, Wenjin carefully said, "Senior, how should I address you? After we finish our discussion, I still have to send a message to the clan leader. My name is Zhang Xiaohua." Xiaohua smiled and said, "As for my Taoist name, we'll talk about it later." "Yes, Junior understands." Wenjin heard this rustic name and didn't dare to be disrespectful. He respectfully replied, "Junior still has one more thing to ask Senior Zhang." Xiaohua said meaningfully, "Let's discuss the Xiahong Mountain Auction House first before we talk about anything else. It's like this." Wenjin hurriedly explained, "Junior has passed on Senior's spiritual root selection method to the clan. The clan leader is very interested in this method. Just now, when Junior was in the auction house, the clan leader sent a message asking Junior to invite Senior to our Wen clan. Therefore, Junior feels that Junior should discuss this matter with Senior first. As for the specific details, Senior can discuss it directly with the clan leader when Senior arrives. If I don't go, won't there be no way to discuss it?" Xiaohua said with a smile. This. Wenjin was a little embarrassed and hurriedly replied, "Junior has no intention of threatening Senior. It's just that, our Wen clan has encountered some problems in the selection of disciples and cultivation methods. I'm sure our clan head would like to invite you over to discuss this." It's fine. I'll consider this matter before answering you." Xiaohua flicked his sleeve and said, "However, I won't be participating in the matter of the Grand Xia Mountain Auction Arena. If you feel that the Wen clan is too far away, why don't you borrow the power of the Chanhe sect? They are the local tyrants and have the intention to develop in this area. If your Wen clan joins forces with the Chanhe sect, it should be suitable." Chanhe sect. Wenjin was a little hesitant. However, after a moment, he smiled and said, "Senior, you have a good idea. Although the Chanhe sect isn't strong, they don't have to be too strong with my Wen clan as their backing. If they were too strong, it would make the Wen clan fearful. With them taking the lead to manage the Xiahong Mountain Auction House and my Wen clan handling the matters behind the scenes, it would be a win-win situation. I'll listen to you, Senior. I'll leave my Wen family's disciples at the auction. I'll also send disciples to the Chanhe sect to discuss the cooperation with them before I leave. Of course, when Senior Zhang arrives at the Wen family, you can mention it to the family head. That would be the best." "Don't worry." Xiaohua nodded. "Although I'm not a disciple of the Chanhe sect, I have some fate with the Chanhe sect. The disciples that I serve are also from the Chanhe sect. Why don't I help the Chanhe sect? Senior, it's the Chanhe sect's fortune to remind us." Wenjin smiled and said, "I'll go make the arrangements now." "Senior, please reconsider. Our family head's invitation." After Wenjin finished speaking, he hurriedly left. This time, he took all the Wen family's disciples with him, leaving only Xiaohua and the others in the hall. "Senior." Once when Zhen left, Yuhua said softly, "It's all my fault." What's your fault?" Xiaohua smiled and waved his hand. "I never planned to go to the Purple Chin Immortal Alliance. He can do whatever he wants." Senior, in my opinion, why don't you consider making a trip to the Wen clan?" Lu Qingyu said with a smile. "I've already asked Senior Sister Yu. Although the Water Cloud Nation isn't on the transportation route that Senior wants to take, the Wen clan is in the center of the Yilin continent. It's not too far away from the transportation route. With a Wen clan disciple as a guide, we don't need to ask around. We don't need to spend any crystals to take the transportation array. Isn't that better than anything else?" "Junior brother Lu," Yuhua said angrily. "We just escaped from the wolf's den of the Xiahong Mountain auction house, and you want to throw yourself into the tiger's den of the Wen clan? Do you want to die?" Although Wen Zhen looks amiable, if it wasn't for their family head's message, how could he possibly care about our lives? Also, didn't Senior Zhang secretly point it out just now? Wen Zhen isn't stupid. He was sure that Senior Zhang had a backup plan, so he took a gamble. That's why he went to the warning platform without hesitation. Seeing Yuhua angry like a tigress, Lu Qingyu shrunk his neck and said, "I just want to be lazy and save some crystals. If Senior Sister doesn't agree, just pretend I didn't say anything. Look at the crystals in the storage ring yourself." Yuhua glared at Lu Qingyu and said, "Those crystals are more than what my Chanhe clan has accumulated for generations." Lu Qingyu didn't dare to say more, but he still muttered, "I'm used to being poor, so I'll save as much as I can. Stingy." Yuhua glared at Lu Qingyu with disdain, but she knew in her heart that if she wasn't worried about Xiaohua's safety, she might have agreed to Lu Qingyu's suggestion. Xiaohua looked at the two talking, and his heart was very warm. It was as if he could see his disciples quarreling, and his mood that was affected by the ugliness of the Yuhong Mountain people disappeared. He naturally had his own plans. The most important thing for him now was to rush to the Wumeng mountain range and find the passage to the Xiaoyu continent. However, his cultivation had not recovered. Even if he rushed to the Wumeng mountain range, he wouldn't be able to enter at will. So his most important thing was to recover his cultivation. With his experience in the 10,000 demon realm, it would be difficult for him to recover his strength in more than 10 years. In the Yilin continent where the Taoist sects were extremely prosperous, it was enough for him to rush to the Wumeng mountain range from the Feng Yan kingdom. Lu Qingyu's words made Xiaohua's heart tremble. He smiled and said, "Qingyu is right, the landlord doesn't have any extra food. Why don't we go with Wen Zhen? Anyway, the Xiahong Mountain auction house will be operated by the Chanhe clan and the Wen clan in the future. If this old man doesn't go to the Wen clan, how can the Wen clan cooperate with the Chanhe clan? Senior, the Wen clan's patriarch is a Mahayana cultivator." Yuhua stomped her feet and complained, "If the Wen clan has bad intentions, we won't even be enough to fill the gap between their teeth." Xiaohua's face turned cold, and he pretended to be serious. "Oh, yes. A Mahayana cultivator, they won't even be enough to fill the gap between my teeth. Why should this old man be afraid of them?" "That's right." Yuhua took the opportunity to smile. However, just as she agreed, she was stunned. She opened her mouth in surprise and looked at Xiaohua. Only then did she understand the meaning of Xiaohua's words. Not to mention Yuhua, even Lu Qingyu and Nuo Yeching were shocked. They knew that Xiaohua was a senior expert, but they only thought that Xiaohua was a void refinement cultivator, and at most, a unity stage cultivator was the peak. They never thought that Xiaohua was actually a tribulation-passing cultivator. A tribulation-passing cultivator, this was something they dreamed of meeting. Now, this tribulation-passing cultivator was standing in front of them with a smile on his face. "Sure." Xiaohua put a finger to his mouth and whispered, "Keep a low profile, keep a low profile. This old man has lost all his cultivation and is gradually recovering. Don't let this old man's enemies know. Yes, this junior understands. Yu Hua hurriedly answered and looked around cautiously. Lu Qingyu hurriedly reminded, Senior, since your cultivation hasn't recovered, it's better for us not to go to the Wen clan. Isn't it just some crystal stones? We can afford it. If we go to the Wen clan from here, how long will it take? Xiao Hua asked. This junior has already asked the Wen clan's disciples. If we use the teleportation formation, it will take dozens of days. Yu Hua hurriedly replied, if we use the flying boat, it will take several months. However, I heard from the Wen clan's disciples that their experiential learning hasn't ended yet, and they may need to use the flying boat to return. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a reward, and thank you for all kinds of support. Chapter 4904. Very well. Xiao Hua made a decision. Then let's take the flying boat. A few months will be enough for me to kill a grand ascension stage being. Hiss. Xiao Hua's voice wasn't loud, and it sounded very casual, but how many cultivators on the Yilin continent could say such words? These words shocked Yu Hua and the others even more than any other bold words. Nuo Yiqing couldn't help but sigh as she suggested again, Senior, you're too awesome. Could you consider taking my master and uncle master as your disciples? Their cultivation is too weak. We'll talk about it later. Xiao Hua waved his hand with a smile. Many thanks, Senior. Lu Qingyu and Yu Hua were simply overjoyed. Facing the ferocious Xiao Hua, Yu Hua's previous inexplicable feelings had now turned into reverence. Ha ha ha. Xiao Hua suddenly burst into laughter. Nuo Yiqing was puzzled. Senior, what are you laughing about? Hee, nothing. Xiao Hua laughed as he waved his hand. This old man only thinks that there are only the three of us in this hall. This old man even told you, who are merely Jindan stage disciples, that this old man is a tribulation-passing stage cultivator. You all even flattered me and said, that's right, we all believe that you are the #1 expert in the Yilin continent. Everyone else is just mud. Tell me. Would the others laugh at us for being crazy? Hee, if others say we're crazy, then we're crazy. Yu Hua replied. Isn't it fine as long as we believe in Senior's strength? In fact, it wasn't just Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu who believed in him, Wen Zhen also believed in him. In less than an hour, Wen Zhen had already arranged the affairs of the Xiahong Mountain Auction Hall and returned to the hall. He was very uneasy as he waited for Xiao Hua's decision. After Xiao Hua asked about Wen Zhen's situation and informed him of his decision, Wen Zhen was ecstatic. This was because his thoughts were similar to Yu Hua's. In the face of a grand ascension stage master of the Wen family, unless they had some kind of strength, they definitely wouldn't face him head-on. Wen Zhen had been thinking about how to persuade Xiao Hua earlier. Seeing that Xiao Hua had agreed, Wen Zhen didn't hesitate at all. He immediately urged his disciples to pack up and prepare to use the teleportation array to rush back to the Wen family in the shortest time possible. However, without waiting for Wen Zhen to order the Wen family disciples, Xiao Hua smiled and told Wen Zhen his decision. Wen Zhen was at a loss. Not to mention other immortal cultivation sects, even in the Wen clan, as long as their strength and seniority were a bit higher than others would have to listen to their decisions. Even if it was unreasonable and unrealistic, others would still have to respect them and risk their lives. Who would be as easygoing as Xiao Hua? Inconceivable. After Wen Zhen confirmed it over and over again, he happily saluted with his Dharma name. The disciples who didn't train continued to train while the disciples who completed their training stayed behind to manage the auction. After that, everyone boarded the One Clan's flying ship and prepared to return to the Purple Chin Immortal Alliance's One Clan. The One Clan naturally wouldn't be as shabby as the Chanha sect. The flying ship that Wen Jin released was actually similar to the Thunder ship of the Imperial Thunder sect. Moreover, some of the Wen Clan disciples who had demon pets didn't ride the Thunder ship. Instead, they released their demon pets. One by one, the demon pets carried their master, spread their wings, and flew towards the place where the sun rose. The road to the Wen Clan was very long. In the route that Wen Zhen had drawn earlier, there were also places where the Foundation establishment and Golden Core disciples would train. At these places, Wen Zhen first stopped the flying ship, then asked Xiaohua for instructions. Finally, he let the Wen Clan disciples leave the flying ship and go to the dangerous places to train. The Wen Clan's flying ship was certainly more luxurious than the Chanha sect's flying ship. Even if Xiaohua didn't want to occupy it, he still occupied the largest quiet room. Different from what Wen Zhen thought, Xiaohua didn't ask about the flying ship's route at all, let alone the location of the training. All his reports were conveyed by Yu Hua, and all the conveyances only had one reply: yes. If it weren't for the fact that Wen Zhen would ask Xiaohua for advice about his modified cultivation methods from time to time, he would almost think that the quiet room was completely a clay sculpture. After more than 10 days, the Wen Clan's flying ship flew to a dense mountain forest and stopped again. Wen Zhen respectfully walked to the front of the quiet room and said, reporting to Senior Zhang, "This is the Purple Cypress Barren Forest. It's the place where the Wen Clan disciples train." Before Wen Zhen could finish speaking, a layer of fish-scale-shaped light suddenly appeared in the clear sky above the flying ship. As soon as the light appeared, the area around the flying ship was immediately imprisoned. At the same time, the fish-scale-shaped light slowly pressed down, and clouds that looked like green lotuses appeared from the light. As soon as the clouds appeared, the ground began to become transparent. The clouds also appeared like reflections, emitting a pure white brilliance that had already covered the entire world. In this brilliance, whether it was the mountain peak, the trees, the flying ship, Wen Zhen, the moonlight, and so on, everything seemed to fade. First, they lost their color, then only the outline was left. Then, the outline disappeared, and the lines were annihilated. In the entire world, only Xiaohua was left sitting cross-legged. What's going on? Xiaohua's face was also filled with shock, and he looked at all this in confusion. When Wen Zhen reported, he was modifying a golden core cultivation method for a golden core with a golden spirit root. Just as he was about to answer Wen Zhen impatiently, he felt an unparalleled power of heaven and earth descend from the sky, completely imprisoning him. Not to mention that his body couldn't move, even his thoughts showed signs of being frozen. Just as Xiaohua was puzzled, hundreds of millions of clouds began to churn, and a pure white brilliance began to transform. 9-colored auspicious lights surged from all directions, and when these auspicious lights landed in one place, a series of earth-shattering thunder rumbled, and a human figure that could split open the heavens and the earth appeared in the midst of the lightning. As soon as this human figure appeared, the surrounding space immediately distorted, and countless black and white flames madly fluttered like small snakes. At the same time, an aura that was 3 times more vast than the power of heaven and earth emanated from this human figure, sweeping through the sky. Dao Master. Xiaohua's body couldn't move, and his thoughts were as slow as a snail's. However, when his gaze fell on this human figure, he couldn't see the appearance of this human figure, and an unimaginable thought immediately emerged in his mind out of thin air. This is my Dao Sect's Dao Master. As soon as the thought of Dao Master came out, the appearance of the human figure became clearer. The Dao Master wore a Dao crown and a Dao robe, and the nameless talisman on the Dao robe seemed to be alive. This talisman swayed, and countless illusory images were born. Among the illusory images, there were dragons and phoenixes, or thunderbolts, or forests and swamps, but most of them were traces of Tao sect cultivators. The light and shadow of the Tao robe rushed to the sky, revealing the appearance of the Tao Master. Tao Master's face was very simple and unadorned, and his eyes contained the sun and the moon. On his face, which was like a full moon, a faint luster was emitted, and a vast and unparalleled will was transmitted into Xiaohua's heart along with the luster. A yearning desire to worship involuntarily arose in Xiaohua's heart. Unfortunately, Xiaohua couldn't even move at this time. The figure of the Tao Master appeared, and his eyes turned slightly, and his gaze fell on Xiaohua. Then, the Tao Master opened his mouth, and a voice that shook the world more than thunder resounded, "Good." Along with this voice, the Tao Master waved his right hand towards the sky, and the whole world distorted, turning into millions of light and shadow. Then, the Tao Master grabbed with his right hand, and these millions of light and shadow turned into millions of light spots that condensed in his hand, condensing into a light and shadow that looked like a seed. Then, the Tao Master stretched out his hand, and his big hand cut through space and time, and fell on Xiaohua's head like the will of heaven and earth. The seed that seemed bigger than the sky turned into the size of a thumb, and fell on Xiaohua's head. As the seed's light and shadow fell, millions of inexplicable sounds came from the void, and the mysteries of heaven and earth appeared in front of Xiaohua's eyes. Xiaohua's physical body also began to fade and melt in this light and shadow, and finally turned into an existence of lines. Caw 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 caw. The moment the seed touched the lines on Xiaohua's head, countless thunderous sounds resounded, and it was as if an invisible lightning pen had touched Xiaohua's head. Lightning spread, and the mysteries condensed, and the laws of heaven and earth turned solid and poured into Xiaohua's body that had turned into lines. Wang wang wang. Along with the thunderous sounds, the inexplicable sounds became even louder, and countless strange light and shadows burned in the whole world like flames. Xiaohua's outline that was originally more than 10 feet long began to slowly expand. Good. The Tao Master spat out another word. This voice was different from before, and it didn't shake the world. Instead, it was low and deep, as if sighing with emotion. However, along with this voice, the Tao Master's body began to shatter, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into millions of dust. However, this dust didn't scatter, and instead, along with the flickering light and shadow of the seed, it rushed into the seed like a myriad of streams returning to the origin. Bam bam bam. The sound of frying beans could be heard again. Cracks were appearing all over the seed's shadow. Tao seed. Seeing the seed crack into 3,000 folds, each of which revealed supreme mysteries, Xiaohua had an inexplicable thought in his heart. However, without waiting for this thought to disappear, the Tao seed swept past the outline of Xiaohua's body and fell into his lower dantian. However, where the Tao seed passed, Xiaohua's body that had been condensed with the laws of heaven and earth quickly condensed, just like before. Moreover, the various clones that had already appeared before also condensed into different bodies of laws within Xiaohua's body. The Mudpill Palace, Middle Dantian, and Lower Dantian all appeared. In the end, the Tao seed fell into the head of Xiaohua's quasi-nitribulation scattered nascent soul. The Tao seed was originally going to fall into the body of the scattered nascent soul, but at this moment, with a soft sound, the primordial purple vapor hidden in his lower dantian suddenly appeared and fell into the Tao seed. Wang wang. The Tao seed's original brilliance turned purple at this moment, and the entire Tao seed began to vibrate, and a strange fragrance came from within the Tao seed. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank all forms of support. Chapter 4905. The entire Tao seed began to swell in the midst of its vibrations. Rings of purple halos, as if breaking out of a cocoon, flashed out of the Tao seed. Moreover, these halos didn't dissipate after rushing out of the Tao seed. Instead, they condensed into rings, clouds, or granules, and scattered around the Tao seed. What was strange was not just the Tao seed. When the fragrance spread out, Xiaohua's scattered nascent souls began to swell rapidly. Even the hundreds of scattered nascent souls that had never been revealed gradually appeared and scattered around Xiaohua's scattered nascent souls. Without waiting for these scattered nascent souls to swell, the purple halos had already sprinkled down. Under the Tao seed, whether it was Xiaohua's scattered nascent souls or the hundreds of scattered nascent souls, they were unable to maintain their spiritual bodies and began to collapse rapidly. Wisps of indescribable mist flew out of the collapsing Tao seed and dissipated into the void. On the contrary, the Thunderbolt Immortal, who was sitting cross-legged in his lower dantian, not only did his entire body of laws not collapse, it instead became increasingly clear. The lines even flashed with purple light as his body expanded. Damn it! Seeing this, Xiaohua somewhat understood. This Tao seed is the seed of the Tao fruit. My scattered nascent souls only need to take this Tao seed and let it slowly fuse with my scattered nascent souls. I'll slowly cultivate my comprehension and let the Tao seed and the scattered nascent souls become one. Sooner or later, the Tao seed will grow into a Tao fruit, and I'll also harvest this Tao fruit sooner or later. But unfortunately, my lower dantian has primordial purple qi. When the primordial purple qi fell into the Tao seed, this Tao seed began to germinate even before it was planted in my scattered nascent souls. The profound meaning of this germination is simply not something my scattered nascent souls can bear. What should I do? Xiaohua's scattered nascent souls quickly disappeared and revealed their starry sky true form. The hundreds of scattered nascent souls also turned into bright stars. Starry sky, scattered nascent souls. Capital star formation. Xiaohua suddenly had a flash of inspiration. The hundreds of scattered nascent souls turned into capital star formation and surrounded the starry sky, scattered nascent souls. Then, without any hesitation, the starry sky, scattered nascent souls pounced on the Tao seed that also seemed to expand like a starry sky. Boom! An indescribable heavy pressure from the starry sky, scattered nascent soul's perception rushed into Xiaohua's mind. Xiaohua's scattered nascent soul's Tao seed was trampled on. Xiaohua did not dare to be negligent. As if he was meditating, he tried his best to absorb the insights and maintain the stability of his Tao foundation. After an unknown period of time, perhaps 1,000 years, or perhaps 10,000 years, Xiaohua heard Wenjin's voice again before he opened his eyes. That's why this junior wants the flying boat to stop here for 10 days so that the Wen clan's disciples can train here. Xiaohua was astonished. He suppressed his confusion and said, "Sure. Thank you, senior." Wenjin was delighted in his heart when he heard Xiaohua speak personally and not ask Yuhua to pass on the message, and he hurriedly agreed before turning around to make arrangements for the training. Xiaohua opened his eyes and looked around. Far away in the quiet room, Lu Qingyu and Nuo Yiqing were sitting cross-legged, circulating their martial arts. Only Yuehua had already opened her eyes when she heard Wenjin's voice. She was about to report to Xiaohua, and when she heard that Xiaohua had already agreed, she respectfully nodded towards Xiaohua. Yuehua, Qingyu, Yiqing. Xiaohua slightly checked his physical body and knew that it was not a dream. After thinking for a moment, he said, "You all go out first. This old man has some things to do." Lu Qingyu and the other two did not dare to be negligent. They hurriedly got up and left the quiet room. Xiaohua was not in a hurry to check his cultivation. Instead, he first explored the space. There did not seem to be any special changes in the space. However, when Jade Archive Xiaohua appeared in the space, he clearly sensed that the entire space had undergone a fundamental change in a short period of time. Just like his physical body, the laws of heaven and earth in the Xinhua continent were almost mature. The few spaces around the Xinhua continent, such as the spirit realm and the space that contained the immortal mansion, had already taken shape. They were even several times larger than before. In particular, a space of a higher level than the spirit realm had also begun to take shape. Good. Jade Archive Xiaohua was overjoyed. He looked at everything on the Xinhua continent again. It did not seem to be affected by his breaking of the realm. He secretly praised it and withdrew his consciousness from the space. After checking the space, Xiaohua sensed his physical body again. Feng Wu, Huang Tong, and the other doppelgangers had already taken shape again. They were now sleeping in various places. It was probably because the laws of body condensation were different from Xiaohua's that they were not used to it yet and had not woken up. Finally, Xiaohua's consciousness fell into his lower dantian. At this time, the Thunderbolt Immortal was like an indomitable god in his lower dantian. His body flashed with purple-gold brilliance as he sat there cross-legged. The nearby void was faintly flickering with lightning, and layers of lightning turned into clouds that floated around the Thunderbolt Immortal. Above the lightning reverend's head, Xiaohua's nascent soul had yet to solidify. It was still in the form of a starry sky and slowly rotated there. However, in his original form, when the star-like radiances were still, they were still, and when they rotated at the same speed. At this moment, the radiances rotated at different speeds, and some of them were even still. Around the starry sky nascent soul, more than 109th tribulation scattered souls had taken shape. Their figures were similar to the Thunderbolt Immortal, but there was no thunder mist around them, only light purple clouds. These 9th tribulation scattered souls formed the capital stars formation and also rotated with the rotation of the starry sky nascent soul. As for the center of the capital stars formation, inside the body of the starry sky nascent soul, the Tao seed that almost took Xiaohua's life did not change further. However, the purple clouds that were previously condensed like stars were now rotating at the same rhythm as the starry sky nascent soul. Waves of strange fragrance and rays of light spread out along with the rotation, filling the entire lower dantian. Seeing that everything was fine, Xiaohua was relieved. He withdrew his mind and activated his magic power to check his cultivation. What made Xiaohua feel a little strange was that his cultivation had not fully recovered. It was only between the 6th and 7th level of elemental energy. If he wanted to activate the space escape technique, he could not. Xiaohua was really puzzled. However, he did not think too much about the reason why his cultivation had not fully recovered. Instead, he thought to himself, strange, what's going on with the Tao Master that just appeared? How do I know he's a Tao Master? Why did he give me a Tao seed that can grow into a Tao fruit? I remember that when I was still a Qi refining cultivator, I once thought about this. Who is the Tao Master of our Tao sect? At that time, I seemed to have asked my master. My master also said that he did not know. However, when I wanted to ask again, he scolded me, saying that I did not cultivate properly, did not do my job properly, and only asked some meaningless questions. After so many years, I stopped thinking about this matter, but this Tao Master unexpectedly came uninvited. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and... Chapter 4906. Then, Xiaohua continued to think, however, it's normal. If the Buddhist sect uses the Buddha ancestor, then our Tao sect will naturally have a Tao venerable. Moreover, the Confucian cultivators will also have a Confucian venerable. The demon clan will also have a demon ancestor. Presumably, my Tao sect was founded by this Tao sovereign, right? But the problem is, this Xiao is not related to this Tao venerable. Before today, I didn't even know that this Tao venerable existed. Why would he favor this Xiao for no reason? This Dao fruit seems to be something different from the Buddha fruit. It's not a small matter. After thinking for a while, Xiaohua still couldn't understand and could only put this matter aside. From the current situation, the appearance of this Dao Venerable is beneficial to this Xiao. Perhaps there will be opportunities in the future. This matter will naturally be resolved. With the current situation, it's better to quickly recover my cultivation and rush to the Wuming mountain range. However, when Xiaohua activated his cultivation method to speed up his recovery, he discovered that this kind of recovery was actually not something he could control. It was still related to the recovery of his physical body, or rather, it was related to the perfection of his body of laws. Forget it, more haste, less speed. I've already recovered about 60 to 70%. Moreover, this Xiao is also heading towards the Wuming mountain range. I'd better proceed according to my previous plan. Xiaohua helplessly smiled bitterly. Perhaps this Xiao has finished modifying the Dao sex cultivation method. Thinking of this, Xiaohua's heart suddenly moved. He hurriedly waved his hand and took out the golden core cultivation method that he was modifying earlier. As expected, Xiaohua continued to modify the golden core cultivation method. Whether it was the exquisiteness of the cultivation method or the speed of modification, it was several times better than before. Damn it, this Xiao understands now. Xiaohua came to a realization and secretly cursed, so the changes in the spiritual qi of Yilan continent have already attracted the attention of the Dao Venerable. He wants to borrow this Xiao's hand to save the Dao sect of Yilan continent. That's why he gave this Dao seed to this Xiao, allowing this Xiao to comprehend the Dao seed and modify the Dao sex cultivation method. But thinking of this, Xiaohua was puzzled again. But Yilan continent is a lower realm. I don't know which immortal realm it belongs to. How could the Dao Venerable be in the immortal realm? I'm afraid he's in a higher realm. How could he know the changes in the spiritual qi of Yilan continent? If he was so merciful, why didn't he show mercy to the 3 continents? Oh, I forgot. The Daoist sects of the 3 continents have long been annihilated. In the following 10 days, Xiaohua was puzzled and pondering, while speeding up the modification of the cultivation method. After the Wen clan disciples finished their training, they continued to rush to the Wen clan with the flying boat. Not to mention that Xiaohua didn't understand why Dao Venerate Bai had appeared, just the fact that the cultivators of the alliance were preparing to intercept Xiaohua made him even more confused than Xiaohua. These cultivators first followed Immortal Ji Yan's arrangement and waited at the teleportation array where Xiaohua might appear. However, after asking the disciples guarding the teleportation array, no one had seen Xiaohua, not even Yuehua, Lu Qingyu, and Nuo Yeqing. These cultivators found it strange and hurriedly sent the message back to the Dao Alliance. At the same time, the message was sent to the Nebula Ridge and the Heaven Alliance through the teleportation formation. What puzzled Old Man Gu Qiong and Ji Yanjinren was that even after they arrived at the Wenbai Immortal Alliance, which was very close to the Heaven Alliance, there was still no news from Xiaohua. It was as if Xiaohua had disappeared immediately after leaving the Chanhe sect. Strange. Ji Yanjinren came out of a teleportation array and was greeted by the disciples of the Dao Alliance who handed him the latest news. After reading it, Ji Yanjinren said in surprise, "Could it be that Zhang Xiaohua has sensed our plan and didn't go to the Heaven Alliance through the teleportation array? There are disciples of the Dao Alliance in the Heaven Alliance, so naturally, there are disciples of the Heaven Alliance in the Dao Alliance." Yi Clan's patriarch said with a smile, "The news in the Alliance conference must have been leaked," and Zhang Xiaohua got the news and fled first. Wanderer Fu Bo shook his head slightly. "I don't think the news is likely to be leaked. After all, after the Alliance conference, the disciples of the Dao Alliance immediately set up a trap. The news couldn't have reached Zhang Xiaohua so quickly. If I'm not mistaken, he must have contacted the disciples of the Heaven Alliance and rushed back to the Heaven Alliance through another teleportation array. Yes, you're right. Ji Yanjinren nodded and turned to instruct the disciples of the Tao Alliance, pass down my order as the Alliance leader. Expand the search area and send the appearances of the 4 of them to all the disciples of the Immortal Alliance guarding the teleportation array. Report back immediately if you find any traces of them. Yes. The disciple of the Tao Alliance received the order and turned to leave. However, Fairy Mo Yun raised her hand and said, "Wait. I have an idea." "Fairy, do you think that Zhang Xiaohua and the other 3 didn't use the teleportation array?" Ji Yanjinren asked with a smile. Fairy Mo Yun nodded. "That's right. Since Zhang Xiaohua didn't use the teleportation array according to Yu Zhuohong's instructions, she must have taken a flying Dharma artifact such as a flying boat. Oh, she might have taken a flying beast. Therefore, it's not realistic to stop them from using the teleportation array. Actually, it's not just a flying Dharma artifact or a flying beast." Ji Yanjinren looked at the crowd and said, "If the disciples of the Heavenly Alliance were to receive Zhang Xiaohua, they might have set up a teleportation bridge. Although the teleportation bridge's teleportation distance is not as far as the teleportation array, if they were to receive them one by one, their speed might not be slower than the teleportation array. The teleportation bridge is usually unstable, and it can easily form a spatial whirlpool and be affected by the teleportation channel." Yu Hongxi shook his head and said, "Zhang Xiaohua has a heavy responsibility. The Heavenly Alliance might use the teleportation bridge, but they won't use it all the time. I think it's more likely that they're using a flying Dharma artifact. That's troublesome." Fairy Mo Yun smiled bitterly. The Yilin continent is so big. There are countless flying routes from the Fengyan Kingdom to the Heavenly Alliance. How can we stop them? Don't worry, fellow Taoists. I've already considered this when I left the Jinglong tomb. He can't cross the sacrificial abyss no matter if he uses a teleportation array, a teleportation bridge, or a flying Dharma artifact. I've already ordered the Grand Law Immortal Alliance and the Chongxi Immortal Alliance to send all their cultivators at the Mahayana realm and above to guard the sacrificial abyss and stop Zhang Xiaohua. Ji Yanjinren said confidently, "Moreover, I've invited all of you to the sacrificial abyss for the same reason." "All right." Wanderer Fu Bo agreed. "With the Deputy Alliance leader's plan, it'll be foolproof. We don't have to worry." "No." Ji Yanjinren suddenly thought of something and shook his head. "I'm a wise man, but I'm bound to make mistakes. I ordered the Tao Alliance disciples to escort the disciples of the Chan he sent back to the Nebula Ridge, but I forgot to ask them to check the situation of the nearest teleportation array from the Nebula Ridge." The Yi family patriarch said with a smile, "That's not neglect. After all, Zhang Xiaohua has been away from the Nebula Ridge for a long time. If the Heaven Alliance disciples came to pick him up, how could they have left any traces behind? Moreover, didn't the Tao Alliance disciples send us a message just now? Zhang Xiaohua didn't enter the nearest teleportation array to the Nebula Ridge. Since he didn't enter the teleportation array, he must have gone somewhere else and used other means. Crystals." Suddenly, old man Gu Qiong, who had been silent all this time, said, "We forgot about crystals. Zhang Xiaohua broke through the boundary and came here. He has lost all his magic power, so I'm afraid he didn't keep his storage ring and storage ring. He doesn't have any crystals on him, so how could he use the teleportation array?" Of course, old man Gu Qiong merely spoke up to hear before he stopped and shrugged. "Forget it, just pretend I didn't say anything." No. Ji Yanjinren hurriedly said with a smile, "Senior, you're right. Although Zhang Xiaohua doesn't have any crystals and has lost all his magic power, he's at least a Mahayana cultivator, so it's easy for him to take some crystals from other cultivators. However, I've indeed neglected this matter. I'll send an order now and ask them to check the surroundings of the nebula ridge again. After Ji Yanjinren gave the order, everyone came out of the teleportation array and went to the next teleportation array to the heaven sacrificial abyss. Dozens of days later, another message came. When Daoist Ji Yen saw the message in the jade slip, he was stunned on the spot. He even opened his mouth slightly as if he wanted to say something but didn't know what to say. Ji Yen. What's going on? Old man Gu Qiong looked at Ji Yanjinren in confusion and asked, did something happen? Ji Yanjinren withdrew his divine thought from the jade slip and handed it to old man Gu Qiong. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said, this is a message from the Chan He sect of the Nebula Ridge. Senior, take a look at it yourself. I don't understand it. I don't know what fellow Daoist Zhang is doing. Is that so? Old man Gu Qiong was curious. He took the jade slip and looked at it. Then, he smiled bitterly and said, how is this possible? Senior. The Yi family's patriarch asked in a low voice, what happened? Before old man Gu Qiong could answer, Ji Yanjinren said, the Chan He sect sent a few disciples to visit Lu Hanhuan. They said that they were under orders to discuss cooperation with the Chan He sect. Fellow Taoists, can you guess who they were under orders from? Normally, these cultivators would have guessed someone else's name. However, judging from Ji Yanjinren and old man Gu Qiong's expressions, how could they not know that this person was Xiao Hua? Of course, it's Shang Xiao Hua. Fairy Mo Yun pursed her lips and said with a smile, we cast a net in the Dao Alliance to stop him, but he's actually helping the Chan He sect. It's not just Shang Xiao Hua. Old man Gu Qiong waved the jade slip in his hand and said, there's also the Wen family of the Purple Chin Immortal Alliance and the Water Cloud Nation. The Wen family of the Water Cloud Nation. The Yi family's patriarch's expression changed and he asked curiously, why are they in the Fengyan Nation? P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at the Cheat-in point, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, or tip it. Chapter 4907. The information in the jade slip isn't very detailed. It seems that the Wen clan's disciples went to the Fengyan kingdom to train. Ji Yan's spiritual master replied helplessly, the Dao Alliance's disciples guarding Xingyun Ridge have already rushed to the auction house in Xiahong Mountain. Wen Jie from Chu Pu Immortal Alliance has also rushed there. If Shang Xiaohua has been at the auction house in Xiahong Mountain, this information is too late, isn't it? Yu Hongzi said doubtfully, perhaps this information is just a diversion. At this moment, the Yi clan's patriarch had already received the jade slip. He read it with his divine sense and said casually, the Wen clan's disciples have already been to Xingyun Ridge. However, Xingyun Ridge is heavily guarded because Senior Gu Qiong killed the Heavenly Alliance's disciples. Moreover, the Chan He sect master is not at Xingyun Ridge, so the Wen clan's disciples returned to the auction house before they arrived. This is the second time they've visited the Chan He sect after knowing that Lu Hanhuan has returned to Xingyun Ridge. Everyone was speechless and looked at each other. After reading the jade slip, the Yi clan's patriarch handed it to Fairy Mo Yun and said, let's not hurry today. If the information in the jade slip is true, then Zhang Xiaohua should be with the Wen clan's disciples. No wonder Zhang Xiaohua is nowhere to be seen even though the teleportation route is so crowded. Ji Yan's spiritual master nodded and said, if this jade slip is a smokescreen of the Heavenly Alliance, we can start from the Wen clan of the Zichin Immortal Alliance and find out some clues about the Heavenly Alliance's actions. After half a day, news came from the auction house in Xiahong Mountain. The Dao Alliance's disciples had clearly found out what had happened at the auction house that day and reported it in detail. Ji Yan's spiritual master was even more confused. He had already determined that Xiao Hua was a Heavenly Alliance cultivator. Why would a Heavenly Alliance cultivator not hurry back to the Heavenly Alliance and sell the spiritual root selection method and spiritual root cultivation technique in an unknown auction house? However, if Xiao Hua wasn't a cultivator of the Heavenly Alliance, Daoist Ji Yan would have never heard of Zhang Xiaohua's name in the Dao Alliance, much less seen this high-level cultivator with a small nose and small eyes. But if Xiao Hua was an outsider, why was he able to speak the language of the Yilin continent and understand the Dao techniques of the Yilin continent? Fairy Mo Yun asked in a low voice, if Zhang Xiaohua is not a cultivator of the Heavenly Alliance, she might be an itinerant cultivator of the Dao Alliance. Impossible. Fu Bo shook his head. I know all of the famous unaffiliated cultivators of our Dao Alliance. Moreover, the strength of individual cultivators like us may not be inferior to that of Ji Yan Jinren, but we are definitely inferior in terms of inheritance. As for the modification of cultivation techniques, we naturally can't compare to them. I don't think Zhang Xiaohua is a rogue cultivator. Yu Hongzi pondered for a moment and reminded them, fellow cultivators, we might have overlooked something. Yu Shuheng once said that the route Zhang Xiaohua was looking for was not the Heavenly Alliance, but the Wuming Mountains. Do you think he's a wizard from the Wuming Mountains? Old man Gu Qiong's heart trembled. He thought of the bloodline technique in the spiritual root selection method and nodded slightly. The Yi family's patriarch opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he swallowed his words. He raised his hand to take the jade slip from old man Gu Qiong's hand and read it again. Ji Yan Jinren looked at old man Gu Qiong and nodded. In this case, Zhang Xiaohua's origin is even more confusing. She might be an itinerant cultivator of our Dao Alliance, a cultivator of the Heavenly Alliance, or a wizard from the Wuming Mountains. No. Old man Yi suddenly said, there's another possibility. Of course, Zhang Xiaohua might also be a cultivator of the Dao Alliance. Ji Yan Jinren immediately replied. No. Old man Yi said calmly, Deputy Alliance Leader seems to have forgotten a place. There are disciples of our Dao Alliance there. What place? Ji Yan Jinren was puzzled. He lowered his head and pondered for a moment. Hiss. Old man Gu Qiong gasped and exclaimed, that's right. We forgot about that place. Alas, it's been too long. That place has almost been submerged in the river of time. Even I almost forgot about it. The abandoned land. Old man Gu Qiong's words enlightened all the cultivators, and they said almost in unison. However, Ji Yan Jinren immediately shook his head and said, fellow Daoist Ye's guess is right. But in fact, it's not very likely. Old man Gu Qiong also smiled and said, that's right, Ji Yan is right. Since it's an abandoned land, it's also a lost land. The Dao sects there have long been annihilated, so how could there be such an outstanding high-level cultivator? Such a cultivator is rare even in our Dao Alliance. How could there be one in the abandoned land? Moreover, the abandoned land has been separated from our Yilin continent since ancient times. Although we haven't been to the Wuming mountain range, we've heard about it. Even powerful people like Kong Chang and Yang Xia don't dare to take risks there. How could Zhang Xiaohua have come to our Dao Alliance from the abandoned land? Fairy Mo Yun also said with a smile. However, before she could finish, Old Man Yi reminded her, Fairy Mo Yun, don't forget that Senior Gu Qiong has explored the Xia mountain range. There's an aura of someone breaking through the boundary there. Zhang Xiaohua might have returned from outside the boundary. That's possible. Ji Yan Jinren finally said, but a cultivator from the abandoned land can't be so powerful. I know this, or I would have thought of the abandoned land that day. Take the abandoned land as a possibility. Old man Gu Qiong said, there are only a few possibilities. Who cares where she came from? Now, we have another choice besides stopping Zhang Xiaohua and the sacrificial abyss. That's right. Ji Yanjinren nodded and said, although we've already passed the Water Cloud Nation, it's not too far from here. We don't need to send messages anymore. Let's go directly to the Wen clan in the Water Cloud Nation. Fellow Daoish Ji Yan, don't be too careless. I think we should send an order to the Purple Chin Immortal Alliance and ask their alliance master to go to the Wen clan first. Old Man Yi reminded him, but don't let him alert the enemy. That's not right. Old Man Gu Qiong said curiously, Ji Yan, the Wen clan of the Purple Chin Immortal Alliance is also a member of the Dao Alliance. Didn't the Wen clan master attend the alliance meeting? Ji Yanjinren was a little embarrassed. He took out a jade slip and handed it to Old Man Gu Qiong, saying, Alliance Master, I just checked it. The Wen clan master was one of the dozen cultivators who didn't make it to the alliance meeting in time. Alas, what a coincidence. Old Man Gu Qiong sighed helplessly. Then, Ji Yanjinren issued an order for the cultivators to head to the Wen clan in the Water Cloud Nation. Wen Zhen brought the disciples of the Wen clan back from the Purple Cypress Forest, and they were in a sorry state. After the change in the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, the strength of many demonic beasts had increased. Although the Purple Cypress Forest was a common place for the Wen clan to train, it was much more dangerous than before. Wen Zhen was caught off guard and lost some disciples, and he himself was slightly injured. Wen Zhen naturally wouldn't tell Xiaohua about this kind of thing. After the flying boat started and flew for more than half a day, Wen Zhen's injuries stabilized. Only then did Wen Zhen gather the Wen family disciples for a discussion. They decided not to continue the training and directly return to the sect. After flying for another 2 days, the flying boat stopped outside a wasteland. Wen Zhen ordered the disciples to pack up and went to the quiet room himself. Before he could say anything, Yu Hua, who was in the quiet room, said, Senior Zhang said that you can train by yourselves and don't disturb him when he modifies the cultivation method. Wen Zhen smiled and said politely, my little friend Yu, please report to Senior Zhang that my training is over. I'm going to use the Wen clan's teleportation formation to return to the Water Cloud Nation. Creak. The door of the quiet room opened and Xiaohua flew out. He looked at the wasteland and asked curiously, the Wen clan has a teleportation formation here. Senior, please no. Wen Zhen didn't dare to hide it and said with a smile, the teleportation formation here is a secret of the Wen clan. It's not used except in times of emergency and for training. I didn't even use it the day I came here. This kind of teleportation formation, the Wen clan has a lot of them in the Yilin continent, right? Xiaohua asked with a smile. Of course. Wen Zhen said cautiously and proudly, this teleportation array is the accumulation of countless generations of Wen family descendants. Even ordinary immortal cultivation sects don't have as many teleportation arrays as our Wen family, let alone the Chanha sect. Then let's go. Xiaohua nodded and said, I've been modifying the cultivation method faster these days. I want to test it out with these cultivation methods. That's great. Hearing this, Wen Zhen's spirit was lifted. He clapped his hands and said, if the Wen clan grows stronger because of this, Senior Zhang will be the benefactor of the Wen clan. Then Wen Zhen asked Xiaohua, Yu Hua, and the others to get off the flying boat and wait at the side. He and the other disciples kept the flying boat and carefully flew for half an hour with Xiaohua and the others. Then they found the Wen clan's teleportation formation under the wasteland. When the teleportation formation was cleaned and the crystals were put in, the cultivators activated the teleportation formation. The moon had already risen in the sky. The teleportation formation's teleportation distance was not as far as Xiaohua thought, so the teleportation pressure was not very big. When they came out of the teleportation formation, Wen Zhen carefully concealed the teleportation formation. Then he took out the flying boat again and flew straight to Dongfang Yuxiao. Only then did he arrive at another teleportation formation that was similarly concealed. In this way, Xiaohua and Wenjin used more than 10 teleportation formations in a row in a few days. Only then did they arrive at a place with beautiful mountains and clear water. Xiaohua and the others had just flown out of the teleportation formation when they were immediately surrounded by cultivators holding magic treasures and huge ferocious beasts. After Wenjin showed the token and explained the matter, the disciple guarding the teleportation formation retreated. While sending a message to the sect, he also sent a disciple to drive the flying boat back to the sect. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank you for all kinds of support. Chapter 4908. Standing on the flying boat, Wenjin looked at the mountain range in the distance that looked like a huge dragon coiling on the ground. At the head of the dragon, there were countless palaces that looked like bright pearls. Wenjin couldn't help but say proudly, "Senior, please take a look. That mountain range is the foundation of my Wen clan. It's called the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. It said that my Wen clan's ancestor had a bet with the sect leader of a cultivation sect and won this mountain range. At this moment, the clan leader must have received my message and will come out to welcome us immediately." "Wenjin, you're thinking too much." The person who escorted Wenjin and the other disciples back to the mountain was an old man who was close to the void refinement realm. He stood in the distance of the flying boat and glanced at Wenjin and Xiaohua indifferently. He said, "The clan leader is not at the Coiling Dragon Mountain." "Ah! How is that possible?" Wenjin exclaimed, "Before I brought the disciples to train, wasn't the clan leader still in the clan? Moreover, the person who has been sending me messages, isn't it the clan leader? The clan leader went to the secluded mountain villa to participate in the Tao Alliance's meeting and hasn't returned yet. The person who is handling the clan's affairs at the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range is the fourth ancestor." The old man explained. Fourth ancestor. At this moment, Wenjin was even more surprised. I haven't seen him for thousands of years, right? Why did he suddenly appear? The old man glanced at Wenjin and said with a smile, "If you don't know, how would I know? I also want to ask the clan leader, in these thousands of years, how far has the fourth ancestor cultivated?" Boom boom boom. Just as the old man was speaking, the dragon head in the mountain range in the distance emitted a loud rumbling sound. Layers of dark red light emerged from the place where the palaces gathered and shot straight into the sky. At the same time, under the light, there was a layer of light that looked like water ripples that spread along the mountain range. Not only did it sweep past the mountain peak, but it also seeped into the ground. Under the flying boat, the range of thousands of miles was instantly gorgeous and beautiful. Then, the light that soared into the sky collided with the clouds high in the sky, tearing the sky apart. Then, the light and the torn clouds intertwined, condensing into a five-colored cloud layer that covered 1,000 miles in the sky. A gust of wind blew, and the clouds that covered the sky and covered the sun and moon suddenly rippled. Swoosh swoosh. The ripples were like raindrops falling, but after falling for a few dozen feet, the raindrops suddenly swelled up and took the shape of lanterns. What was special was that at this moment, the clouds began to thin, and rays of sunlight shone through the gaps between the clouds, shining on the lantern. The lanterns seemed to have been ignited. Tens of thousands of lanterns shot out beams of light, illuminating the surroundings of Xiaohua's flying boat. The entire world was suffused with 5 colors. Neon welcome. The spirit-severing realm old man was dumbfounded. He looked at Brilliant in disbelief and exclaimed, "This. My Wen family hasn't welcomed a guest like this in thousands of years. I just don't know." With that, the spirit-severing realm old man looked at Xiaohua again. He didn't understand how this unknown and weak cultivator attracted the attention of the fourth ancestor. While they were talking, the flying boat slowly stopped. Wenjin didn't find it strange. Instead, his face was flushed with excitement. He lowered his voice and said, almost showing off, "Senior brother, what do you think is the most troublesome thing for my Wen family in the past 500 years? River Basin sect." The spirit-severing realm old man immediately said the name of a sect, but as soon as he said it, Wenjin unhappily said, "Senior brother, River Basin sect is just a clown. They rely on raising spirit beasts to increase their strength, but how can they compare to my Wen family's foundation? They are nothing." The spirit-severing realm old man suddenly slapped his forehead and said, "I understand. It's the selection of my Wen family's juniors." With that, the spirit-severing realm old man bowed to Xiaohua and said, "Junior Wenhong greets Senior Zhang." It was this junior who had eyes but failed to see and neglected senior. "Ah, senior brother." Wenjin originally wanted to keep Xiaohua in suspense, but who knew that Wenhong guessed correctly? In particular, Wenhong, who had always been quite arrogant, actually saluted Xiaohua, which made him even more puzzled. Wenjin couldn't help but ask curiously, how did you guess it so quickly? Fellow Daoist Wen, please get up." Xiaohua helped Wenhong up and said with a smile, "This old man is a member of the Dao sect, and your Wen family is also a branch of the Dao sect. What this old man can do for the Dao sect and the development of your Wen family is a matter of course. You don't have to be so polite. This matter is insignificant in senior's eyes, but in junior's eyes, it is very important." Wenhong stood up and said with a smile, "If it weren't for senior's arrival, the descendants of the collateral branches like us, and even, alas, to put it bluntly, many of juniors can't be counted as the inner branch of the Wen family. Today, they can all take part in the selection with senior's help. Even if they fail, this is still a chance for them. This is all thanks to senior's grace." Wenjin was puzzled. He pulled Wenhong and asked, "Senior brother, junior passed the spiritual root selection method to the sect, but in fact, junior thinks that the most important thing is the cultivation method of the spiritual root. So, after junior received the message from the fourth ancestor, I specially asked Senior Zhang to come to my Wen family for guidance." "What are you talking about?" "That's right," Wenhong said with a smile. "Previously, the fourth ancestor issued a family head order, requesting all the children from the families who are related to our Wen family from 3 to 10 years old to gather at the 5th mountain range of Coiling Dragon Mountain to carry out the largest selection of disciples. We were all overjoyed. However, we only knew that this was an opportunity, but we didn't know where it would come from. Now that I've met Senior Zhang, I know that this is all Senior Zhang's. Oh, it's also junior brother's credit." As he spoke, Wenhong also cupped his hands and bowed to Wenjin, "Junior brother, please accept my salute. After this matter is over, I'm sure the other brothers in the clan will also have to thank you." I don't dare. Wenjin hurriedly helped Wenhong up and replied, "This is what junior brother should do." As the two of them spoke, the lantern-like clouds that had previously dripped down from the sky had already landed near the flying boat. Moreover, there were still more lanterns in the sky. Just in front of the flying boat, the fallen lanterns gradually gathered together and turned into a flashing rainbow bridge. One end of the rainbow bridge was in front of the flying boat, while the other end fell on Coiling Dragon Mountain. "Senior, please wait here for a moment," Wenhong hurriedly said. "According to our Wen family's etiquette, the fourth ancestor will personally come to welcome you." "Senior, you don't have to go there first." Xiaohua smiled bitterly and said, "Your fourth ancestor is too polite. With such great fanfare, this old man is afraid that he will be disappointed." He won't. Wenjun hurriedly comforted Xiaohua, not to mention the qi refinement cultivation method that Senior previously took out, just the foundation establishment cultivation method that Senior modified later and the incomplete golden core cultivation method. The fourth ancestor would only be so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. How could he be disappointed? Say. Senior has almost finished modifying the golden core cultivation method. Hearing this, Wen Hong was really shocked. He lowered his voice and said, "Senior, this cultivation method, can I take a look?" Hearing this, Wen Zhen hurriedly winked at Xiaohua. Xiaohua understood Wen Zhen's meaning and said with a smile, "Fellow Daoist, why are you in such a hurry? When this old man arrives at the Wen family, this cultivation method will soon be handed over to your Wen family. At that time, you can take a look at it however you want." That's true, that's true. Wen Hong scratched his head and said somewhat embarrassedly. His gaze turned to Wen Jin again, but before he could speak again, a string of music rang out and a flying boat pulled by a five-colored wand flew over the rainbow bridge from afar. When the flying boat came closer, Xiaohua could clearly see that this flying boat was only a few dozen feet long. The flying boat was not rhombus-shaped, but rather square-shaped. The four sides of the flying boat were engraved with flowers and plants of the four seasons. There was also a golden lid on the flying boat that was shaped like a plum blossom. Under the plum blossom was a thin young man with slanted eyebrows, eyes like dots of ink, and slightly thin lips that were slightly curled up. A kind of arrogance involuntarily flowed from this proud face. Beside the young man, there were naturally more than 10 beautiful women dressed in beautiful clothes. These women were playing the zither and the 10 pairs of curious eyes fell on Xiaohua's body. However, it was clear that Xiaohua's appearance did not surprise them. Moreover, Xiaohua had already controlled the secret technique of Qingqiu Mountain, so after seeing him, their gazes faded away. On the other hand, the young man's eyes were even more fervent. Without waiting for the flying boat to stop, he immediately floated down from the flying boat. His clothes were as white as snow, causing the women on the flying boat to secretly praise him. "This one is Wen Zhou. Greetings, fellow Daoist Zhang." The young man landed on the rainbow bridge and cupped his hands in salute. His early-stage Mahayana cultivation base was not concealed in any way. "Fellow Daoist Wen is too polite." Xiaohua returned the salute in a manner that was neither haughty nor humble. "I'm Zhang Xiaohua. Greetings, fellow Daoist." Wen Zhou frowned slightly. He had already seen that Xiaohua's cultivation base was only at the early-stage body integration stage. To put it bluntly, calling him fellow Daoist was a form of politeness. However, Xiaohua actually accepted his salute and even called him fellow Daoist instead of senior, which made him a little surprised. Wen Zhou couldn't help but take another look. After thinking for a moment, he smiled and said, "When this old man saw the spirit root selection method that Wen Zhen passed back, I was truly astonished. That's why I asked him to invite you here at all costs. Now that I've met you, I'm even more surprised. With fellow Daoist Zhang's cultivation base, you were actually able to create such a miraculous cultivation method. Fellow Daoist Zhang is truly a genius from the heavens." Boy greets the fourth ancestor. Wen Zhen seized the opportunity to kneel and kowtow. Boy may not have seen Senior Zhang create the spirit root selection method, but Boy has seen Senior Zhang modify the golden core cultivation method with his own eyes. Senior Zhang's vision is truly extraordinary. Junior and the others greet Senior Wen. Lu Qingyu, Yu Hua, and Nua Yiqing hurriedly knelt and kowtowed as well. A Mahayana cultivator was not someone they could casually meet. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, donate it, and... Chapter 4909. Get up, get up. Wen Zhou laughed and helped everyone up. This old man heard from Wen Zhen that all of you are fated with my Wen clan. After today's matter, this old man will throw a big banquet and reward all of you generously. Thank you, Senior Wen, Yu Hua and the others replied respectfully. Fellow Daoist Zhang, please follow me onto the boat. Wen Zhou raised his hand. This boat and the neon sky welcoming ceremony are the highest form of etiquette our Wen clan uses to welcome our esteemed guests. In order to welcome fellow Daoist Zhang, I didn't ask for permission from the clan leader and directly used it. I hope fellow Daoist can lend me a hand and do his best to pass down our Wen clan's legacy. Hee, fellow Daoist Wen, don't worry. Since I'm here, I have no intention of not doing anything. Xiao Hua smiled. Furthermore, this poor Daoist wants to borrow the Wen family's strength to spread these cultivation techniques throughout the Yilin continent. Your Wen clan will be the source of the Yilin continent's new cultivation methods. Hearing this, Wen Zhou's eyes lit up. He clapped his hands and said, Fellow Daoist Zhang, oh fellow Daoist Zhang, you've won me over with just a few words. Come. Follow me onto the boat. When Qingfan returns, we must have him greet you as a clan official. With that, Wen Zhou invited Xiao Hua to board the boat first. Xiao Hua naturally refused. The two exchanged pleasantries for a while before Wen Zhou boarded the boat first. Xiao Hua brought Yu Hua and the others up after him. Wen Zhen and the others naturally didn't have the qualifications. After the boat left and the rainbow bridge shrank, they returned to the boat. When the boat landed on Coiling Dragon Mountain, it inevitably became lively again. The Wen clan's elders, Wen Qing, Wen Yushi, and Wen Zhuqi, as well as the Wen clan's steward in charge of internal affairs and external affairs, all came to greet Xiao Hua. The liveliness far exceeded the standard of receiving a body integration cultivator. In addition to showing the importance the Wen clans for ancestors placed on Xiao Hua, it also revealed the Wen clan's urgent need for spirit root selection and cultivation methods. After a full hour of greeting, Xiao Hua followed Wen Zhou to the Wen clan's discussion hall. Although it was called a meeting hall, it was several times larger than the Clear Heart Hall of the Chanyi sect. However, there were no jade chairs placed on the platform of the meeting hall. Some jade chairs carved from clear jade were placed below the platform. Other than Xiao Hua and the others, there were no other people from the Wen family who entered the meeting hall. Even the steward and the foreign steward from before didn't enter. After everyone was seated, a disciple served spirit tea. Wen Zhou raised his teacup with a smile and said apologetically to Xiao Hua, fellow Daoist Zhang has come from afar. My Wen clan should have held a banquet to welcome you. However, my Wen family's request for your help is far too important, so I'll use tea instead of wine to toast you. When the family head returns, he will host the banquet. Xiao Hua raised his teacup and said with a smile, I'll say the same thing again. Fellow Daoist Wen is too polite. I also don't like any excitement. After helping the Wen clan, I might rest for a while at Coiling Dragon Mountain and then leave. Whatever banquet, I don't need it. Fellow Daoist Zhang has helped my Wen family so much. How can Qingfan let you go so easily when he returns? Wen Zhou laughed and raised his cup. Come, fellow Daoist Zhang. Try my Wen family's nameless spirit tea. All right. Xiao Hua took a sip. As soon as the spirit tea entered his mouth was filled with a refreshing fragrance. Waves of spirit qi flowed through his body like fine needles. Good tea. Xiao Hua praised and said to Nuo Yeqing, why don't you drink a few more cups? This spirit tea is very beneficial for your core formation. Yes. Nuo Yeqing was naturally obedient and agreed. She then said to Wen Zhou, thank you, Senior Wen. This child. Wen Zhou was happy to hear that and said to the disciple beside him, quickly bring some spirit tea over." The disciple was shocked, but he didn't dare to disobey and hurriedly left. A moment later, he came back with a palm-sized emerald green jade box and handed it to Wenzhou unwillingly. Wenzhou didn't even look at it. He waved his hand and handed it to Nuo Yeqing. He smiled and said, "Since you like it, this old man will give you some more." Seeing that Wenzhou loved the house so much, Xiaohua hurriedly stood up and said, "Fellow Daoist Wen, why are you so polite?" Wenzhou rolled his eyes and said unhappily, "What's there to be polite about? Others don't know the value of the things that fellow Daoist gave my Wen family, but this old man is very clear. What does this spirit tea count for? Isn't it just a little produced every 100 years? If it weren't for fellow Daoist's cultivation method, my Wen family might not even have a disciple to pick the spirit tea in another 100 years. All right." Wenzhou was so enthusiastic that Xiaohua was helpless. He raised his hand and took out a few jade slips and handed them to Wenzhou. He said, "These are the cultivation methods that I recently modified. Fellow Daoist, please take a look first. After helping fellow Daoists select disciples, I will modify the other cultivation methods." "Okay." Wenzhou's eyes lit up, and the few clan elders who had been silent finally showed joy. The female clan elder named Wen Yushi said in a low voice, "Fourth ancestor, can you let me see the golden core cultivation method that fellow Daoist Zhang modified?" Back then, the family head had ordered us to brainstorm and modify it, but we couldn't figure it out no matter how hard we racked our brains. Now that we see this jade slip, our hearts are like a cat scratching at them. Wenzhou smiled slightly and took the cultivation method. He didn't say anything, but casually immersed his spiritual sense into one of them. After looking at it for a moment, he unconsciously slapped the jade chair and said, "Fellow Daoist Zhang, you really didn't disappoint this old man. The uniqueness of this cultivation method's modification is really strange." Fourth ancestor. Wen Qing, Wen Yushi, Wen Drichi, and the others all opened their mouths to ask for it. Wenzhou looked at everyone and then at the jade slip in his hand. He waved his hand and said, "You don't have to be anxious. Let this old man carefully ponder over it, then I'll give it to you to comprehend." "All right." Wen Qing and the others didn't dare to say anything more and could only look at each other and agree. Fourth ancestor. Wen Drichi took the opportunity to stand up again and said, "Wen Jin went out to train this time." However, before Wen Drichi finished his report, Wenzhou waved his hand impatiently and said, "Training is such a trivial matter, do you still need to report to this old man? When Qing Fan comes back, let Wen Jin tell him. I know Wen Zhen is your junior, and he has made a great contribution this time. Qing Fan will definitely reward him heavily." Yes, this disciple understands. Wen Drichi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He agreed and sat down obediently. Fellow Daoist Zhang. At this moment, Wenzhou finally invited, "This old man knew you were coming, so I specially gathered all the disciples of the Wen surname who hadn't been selected in the past 10 years. Previously, this old man also tried to use your spiritual root selection method to select some. It's just that the selection was too easy, and this old man also doesn't know if I've selected correctly, so I hope fellow Daoist can give me some pointers." That spiritual root selection method can only be used by Qi refinement and foundation establishment disciples. Why does fellow Daoist need to personally perform it? Xiaohua said with a smile. P.S. Fellow Daoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support it, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Today is the 8th watch period, and I wish everyone a happy Children's Day. I'm out of chapters again. What a pity, what a pity. Chapter 49:10. You're right, fellow Daoist. I was even more confused when I saw how simple the cultivation method was. Wen Zhou smiled. That's why I had some Wen clan disciples practice the 4th level of Coiling Dragon Mountain. If it's convenient for you, would you like me to accompany you there? Sure. Xiaohua nodded. Actually, the method of selecting spiritual roots is very mature and doesn't require too much guidance. However, I'm not absolutely sure about the cultivation method of spiritual roots. I feel that if it's possible, why don't you let those disciples come over and I'll explain it to you in the meeting hall. That's fine too. Wen Zhou looked around and said awkwardly, but I'm afraid the meeting hall will be too crowded if we let nearly 100,000 disciples come over. Xiaohua was shocked. Fellow Daoist, you're saying there are 100,000 Wen clan disciples? Children between 3 years old and 10 years old. Ah, fellow Daoist, you don't know. Wen Qing smiled. Our Wen clan has many descendants and it hasn't been easy to select disciples for the past 100 years. So, that's why I told you to let the children between the ages of 3 and 8 come here. You can extend it to the age of 10. Wen Zhou curled his lips and said, and I also know that in fact, the children above the age of 10 make up 30%. Wen Yushi looked at Wen Qing and Wen Zhuqi. The 3 of them exchanged glances. Wen Yushi smiled and said, that's not all. We're worried about the Wen clan's inheritance, so we called some of the side branches' descendants over. Forget it, forget it. Wen Zhou waved his hand. They're all descendants of the Wen clan. When Qingfan comes back, just tell him. I don't care about this. When Qing thought of something and asked, a 4th ancestor, why hasn't the clan head returned yet? I remember the Dao Alliance already sent a message. Him. It would have been fine if Wen Qing didn't mention it. When Wen Zhou heard this, he was furious. He waved his hand and said, about this, you can ask him later. If it weren't for him, would I need to beg fellow Daoist Zhang like this? Wen Qing didn't dare to ask further upon seeing Wen Zhou's anger. Xiaohua smiled. Fellow Daoist Wen, I have 2 things to ask. Oh. Please speak, fellow Daoist Zhang. Wen Zhou was originally standing up, but when he heard this, he was a bit surprised. He thought that Xiaohua wanted to raise some conditions, so he suppressed the displeasure in his heart and sat back down. I would like to ask, where did the Wen family bloodline come from? But does it have anything to do with the fire phoenix or the colorful phoenix? Xiaohua knew that Wen Zhou had misunderstood and hurriedly asked the question in his heart. Fire phoenix. Kai Huang. Wen Zhou was taken aback. He pondered for a moment, looked around, and asked, as far as this old man knows, my Wen family's bloodline has nothing to do with these true spirits. What about you? Of course it doesn't matter. Wen Yushi said with a smile, our Wen family's human bloodline is very pure. It has nothing to do with true spirits. Why would fellow Daoist Zhang suddenly ask such a question? Oh, nothing. As Xiaohua spoke, he took out the plum blossom-shaped token that he had obtained from Mo Zhao Black Forest and calmly replied, I obtained this token in a forbidden area. That day, this token was with a bone phoenix. That's why I asked this question. Of course, to tell you the truth, if I didn't see your Wen family's disciples with this kind of mark, I wouldn't have come here so easily with Wen Jin. I don't care about the cooperation between Chanhe sect and Wen family. Unfortunately, whether it was Wen Zhou, Wen Qing, Wen Yushi, or the others, they didn't care about the meaning of Xiaohua's words. They all stood up, stared at the token in Xiaohua's hand, and exclaimed, Sky. Sky Plum Token. How? How is this possible? Does the Sky Plum Token really exist in this world? After a moment, Wen Zhou came back to his senses and shook his head in disbelief, this old man doesn't dare to believe it. Fellow Daoist Zhang, can you show this thing to us? Wen Yushi lowered his voice and tried to suppress the shock in his heart as he asked. What's the origin of this thing? Does it belong to your Wen family? Xiaohua didn't immediately hand over the so-called Sky Plum token to anyone. Instead, he asked with a smile. This. Wen Yushi hesitated and turned to look at Wen Zhou. Wen Zhou was also hesitant at this time and no longer acted as if he was taking charge of everything. Actually, my Wen family. Wen Zhuiqi was a little impatient and wanted to speak, but just as he said a few words, Wen Zhou scolded, Zhuiqi, what are you going to do without the family head's orders? Wen Zhuiqi knew that he was too impatient and hurriedly shut his mouth. The entire discussion hall was dead silent. How about this? Wen Zhou thought for a moment and even raised his head to look outside the hall as if he was looking at the sky. Then he said, I'll leave the Sky Plum token with fellow Daoist Zhang first. Anyway, the Sky Plum token will leave my Wen family isn't in a day or two, so there's no need to rush these few days. Go to the Ancestral Hall and check the ancient records first so that fellow Daoist Zhang can know the origin of the Sky Plum token. When the family head returns, we'll discuss this matter together and then ask fellow Daoist Zhang to make a decision. Yes, we'll listen to the fourth ancestor. Wen Qing and the others hurriedly stood up and said, we'll go check right away. Is there a need to be so impatient? Wen Zhou rolled his eyes at them in annoyance, but he was just saying it and didn't stop them. When the elders left, Wen Zhou smiled and said, fellow Daoist, please keep the Sky Plum token well. This item is very important to my Wen family. When the family head returns, I'll let him discuss it with you. Seeing that Wen Zhou didn't bully the weak and snatch it, Xiaohua was very satisfied with the Wen family. He smiled and said, if that's the case, I'll keep it first. Fellow Daoist, don't worry. As long as I know the origin of this item, your Wen family can get it without paying any price. Fellow Daoist Zhang, don't worry. My family head will definitely give you a satisfactory answer. Wen Zhou smiled and stood up. Let's go. This old man wants to see fellow Daoist Zhang's magical cultivation method. Okay, fellow Daoist Wen, please. Xiaohua stood up and smiled. Lu Qingyu and the others also hurriedly stood up. However, Wen Zhou didn't take Xiaohua out of the meeting hall. Instead, he walked to the back of the hall. After passing through two side halls, they arrived at a small hut. This hut was empty, but after Wen Zhou sent a few spells into it, the floor of the hut rippled. After several layers of light were annihilated, a strange magic array appeared. When Wen Zhou put several crystals into a few grooves that looked like the mouth of a beast, a faint rumbling sound came from the magic array, and a black and white light was produced. Xiaohua was surprised and asked curiously, fellow Daoist Wen, didn't you just say that it's in the fourth layer of Panlong Mountain? Could it be that the fourth layer isn't in Panlong Mountain? P.S. Fellow Daoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, collect, reward, and thank all forms of support. Chapter 49:11. Fellow Zhang misunderstood. The fourth layer is obviously inside Panlong Mountain. Wen Zhou laughed, it's just that this old man is too lazy to fly. Moreover, when we go out, those guards will shout and keep us company. It's really noisy, so this old man usually uses the teleportation array inside Panlong Mountain. Damn it. Xiaohua heard this and laughed bitterly. On the Xiaoyu continent, the teleportation array had long been lost. Any sect that had a teleportation array was already very arrogant. However, looking at the Yilin continent, the Wen clan, which was not particularly famous, had many secret teleportation arrays on the Yilin continent. Even within the sect, there were so many small teleportation arrays. Alas, they really didn't treat teleportation arrays as arrays. After the teleportation array was activated, Xiaohua's divine sense swept over it. He knew that it was indeed a small teleportation array as Wen Zhou said, so he smiled and asked Wen Zhou to go first. After Lu Qingyu and the others entered, he was the last to step into the teleportation array. At the same time that Xiaohua stepped into the teleportation array, in a place hundreds of miles away from Panlong Mountain, in a valley that was not too barren, there was a slight vibration. The originally calm jade pool in the valley immediately set off light ripples. As soon as the water ripples appeared, faint mana fluctuations immediately appeared on the walls of the valley where only the wind and the chirping of birds could be heard. A dozen or so Aurus core disciples wearing armor, under the leadership of a nascent soul cultivator, quietly flew out from the hidden mountain rocks and surrounded the jade pool above. Boom! After the ripples, a pillar of water like a pillar rushed into the sky. Black and white threads of light could be faintly seen in the water light, and a teleportation aura rushed out from the pillar of water and overflowed in all directions of the valley. Then, within the pillar of water, two figures appeared in the valley. These two figures fell into the encirclement of more than 10 disciples on guard. However, when these disciples saw the newcomers, they unconsciously looked at each other in dismay. Everyone looked at each other and bowed together. Disciples greet the clan head. Within the pillar of water surrounded by everyone, a man and a woman stepped on the waves and came over. The man had a strong build, a delicate face, dressed like a scholar, and held a folding fan in his hand. He had a romantic appearance. As for the woman beside the man, her eyes were filled with affection. Her face was like a peach blossom, and between her ample breasts and plump buttocks, she had a slender waist that could stir up thousands of emotions. This man was naturally the head of the Wen family, Wen Qingfan. At this moment, Wen Qingfan's face was slightly red and his body was a little crooked. He looked a little weak as he leaned on the woman's body. The woman's full breasts were pressed against Wen Qingfan's arm. The lines of her breasts were a little out of shape. However, the woman looked at her slightly red lips and didn't show any dissatisfaction. She seemed to be whispering something into Wen Qingfan's ear. When Wen Qingfan heard that the disciples wanted to see him, he didn't care that they were looking at each other. He waved his hand and said, "All of you, rise. Quickly drive the flying boat and send this old man back to the mountain. In addition, pass down the order, to arrange a banquet. This old man wants to banquet, invite Fairy Xinglin." Family head. That nascent soul cultivator hurriedly flew over and whispered, "Could it be that you drank too much? Please wake up." This disciple heard that, "Our Wen clan has a distinguished guest. Fourth ancestor has just used the Wen clan's highest standard neon sky welcome." What? Neon sky welcome. Although Wen Qingfan was a little drunk, he was a Mahayana cultivator after all. He instantly sobered up and exclaimed, "What's wrong with fourth ancestor? What distinguished guest has come to our Wen clan? He actually dares to use the neon sky welcome." This disciple isn't too sure. The nascent soul cultivator smiled apologetically. This disciple only knows that the sect has recently been gathering suitable heirs to prepare for a rare disciple selection. Selection my ass. Wen Qingfan was enraged when he heard this. If we can't find any disciples and don't have suitable cultivation techniques, what's the point of cultivating? A late golden core stage disciple beside him mustered up his courage and whispered, "Family head, this disciple has been thinking for a long time. In this entire Yilin continent, I'm afraid that only the Alliance Master of the Dao Alliance would be worthy of this neon sky welcome. Could it be family head? Then that's even more ridiculous." Wen Qingfan was even angrier when he heard this. He raised his hand and pointed at the crowd with his folding fan. If anyone dares to mention the Tao Alliance to me in the future, I'll wring your heads off. However, before Wen Qingfan could finish speaking, a powerful sense of the soul appeared out of nowhere. It swept past Wen Qingfan and the disciples of the Wen family, locking onto them immediately. At the same time, a voice that Wen Qingfan was familiar with rang out in the sky. Wen Qingfan, what's wrong with the Tao Alliance? Are you in the right for not attending the Alliance meeting on time? Ha! Wen Qingfan turned pale with fright. He looked incredulously at the huge transmission channel that appeared in the sky and cried out, Vice Alliance Master, why are you here? You wouldn't use the land transmission bridge for this junior to come to Coiling Dragon Mountain to denounce me, right? Under Wen Qingfan's gaze, the void channel rapidly shrank and turned into the shape of a bridge. The void at the end of the bridge was extremely distorted, and a small door gradually took shape. Following Wen Qingfan's voice, Ji Yan, Old Man Gu Qiong, and the others stepped out of the door. When the last fairy Mo Yun flew out, the entire door let out a thunderous roar and slowly collapsed. A thunderous roar echoed in the depths of the collapsed space. Is the puny Wen clan worth this old man's anger? Ji Yan landed in front of Wen Qingfan and looked disdainfully at him. He then looked at the woman who lowered her head and didn't dare to look up. He said coldly, I can expel your Wen clan from the Tao Alliance with a single word. Why would I have to chase you all the way to Coiling Dragon Mountain to denounce you? Old Man Gu Qiong didn't have the patience and asked directly, Wen Qingfan, is Shang Xiaohua on Coiling Dragon Mountain? Who is Shang Xiaohua? Wen Qingfan didn't dare to look into Ji Yan's eyes. He thought for a moment and hurriedly answered Old Man Gu Qiong's question. Damn it! Old Man Yi cursed. Wen Qingfan, didn't you receive the Tao Alliance's order? That. Wen Qingfan stammered, I didn't make it to the Alliance meeting. I heard. I was expelled by the Tao Alliance, so I didn't rush back. I visited a few good friends and I just rushed back to Coiling Dragon Mountain. Who's in charge of the Wen clan now? Old Man Yi asked again. Fourth ancestor Wen Zhou. Wen Qingfan seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly answered, however, I heard from the disciples that a distinguished guest just arrived. The fourth ancestor used the neon sky welcome guest that the Wen clan hasn't used for a long time. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, or tip it. Chapter 49:12. Ha, just as I thought. Ji Yan laughed heartily. It seems we came at the right time. We caught up with Shang Xiaohua as soon as she arrived at Coiling Dragon Mountain. Wen Qingfan, send the order to seal off all teleportation formations in the Wen clan. No one is to activate them without my order. Yes. Wen Qingfan hurriedly replied, but then he whispered, Vice Alliance leader, my sect token is. The Yi clan's patriarch scolded, Wen Qingfan, are you really drunk or just pretending? Are you the Wen clan's patriarch, or is the sect token the Wen clan's patriarch? There's a great merit in front of you. Once the teleportation formations are sealed, perhaps the Alliance leader will be merciful and withdraw his order to expel the Wen clan from the Tao Alliance. Yes, I understand. Wen Qingfan was pleasantly surprised and hurriedly ordered, Wen Dai, send the order to seal off all teleportation formations. Without the Vice Alliance leader's order, no one is to activate them. Otherwise, they will be killed without mercy. How could that nascent soul cultivator, who had always been kind to DD, dare to say anything? He ordered a few disciples to seal off the teleportation formations and led the other disciples into the sky to send the message. Seeing the disciples leave, Wen Qingfan hurriedly waved his hand at the so-called apricot flower fairy, indicating that she should stay here. He then respectfully said to Ji Yan, alliance leader, Wen Zhou must have just invited fellow Daoist Zhang Xiaohua to the meeting hall. Why don't we teleport over? No hurry, no hurry. Ji Yan nodded at Fairy Mo Yun, the Yi clan's patriarch, Wanderer Fu Bo, Yu Hongzi, and the others. They all nodded and teleported to various places in Coiling Dragon Mountain. Ji Yan smiled and said, since fellow Daoist Zhang has already arrived at Coiling Dragon Mountain, we naturally have to use a safe method to meet him. It won't be too late for us to meet him in the meeting hall after all the teleportation formations in your Wen clan are closed. Wen Qingfan had no idea what perfected Ji Yan was talking about, nor did he know who Zhang Xiaohua was. However, since fourth ancestor Wen Zhou treated him as an honored guest and the Dao Alliance master valued him so highly, how could he dare to say anything when 6 late-stage tribulation-passing cultivators came to stop him? He could only say embarrassedly, yes, yes. Junior will follow Lord Alliance Master's orders. Come with me. Old man Gu Qiong said calmly, we'll talk as we fly. Yes, sir. Wen Qingfan smiled apologetically as he stood behind the 2 alliance heads. After asking a few questions, old man Gu Qiong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Qingfan, hurry up and send word to the leaders of the expedition to the Fengyan Kingdom. Wenjin. Wen Qingfan was stunned. He's already back. Sigh, you muddle-headed patriarch. Old man Gu Qiong couldn't help but curse. When Old Monkey was still alive, your Wen clan was a prominent figure in the Violet Chin Immortal Alliance. Wasn't the Alliance Master of the Violet Chin Immortal Alliance the Old Monkey? But now, not only are you no longer the leader of the Alliance, you've even been expelled from the Dao Alliance. If you've committed a serious offense, I'm willing to sacrifice my own reputation to speak up for you on account of the Old Monkey. But it's just a little late. How do you expect this old man to give up this face? Perfected Ji Yan knew that the old monkey, old man Gu Qiong was referring to was Wen Ho, the former patriarch of the Wen clan. Back then, Wen Ho was an all-powerful figure in the Dao Alliance and was known as Lord Marquis. However, old man Gu Qiong and the other cultivators who were close to him called him Old Monkey. Perfected Ji Yan didn't know that old man Gu Qiong had such a close relationship with the former patriarch of the Wen clan. Upon hearing old man Gu Qiong mention Old Monkey, Wen Qingfan couldn't help but feel sour. He knelt down in the air and kowtowed. Junior is unfilial and has made Senior worry. Junior. Get up. You don't have to do this. You're also a faction master. Old man Gu Qiong hurriedly helped Wen Qingfan up as if he was looking at his own child. If you have any difficulties, you can tell me or Senior Ji Yan. Actually. Wen Qingfan's face turned red. After a moment of hesitation, he said in a low voice, Junior doesn't have any difficulties. It's just that Lord Marquis is too famous, and I can't compare to him. I feel too much pressure, haha. Old man Gu Qiong looked at perfected Ji Yan, and both of them laughed. Wen Qingfan's thoughts were similar to the thoughts of many of their juniors. They were the supreme cultivators of the Dao Alliance, and their juniors couldn't surpass them no matter how hard they tried. Under such circumstances, their juniors might be dispirited or motivated, and Wen Qingfan obviously belonged to the former. You are you, and Old Monkey is Old Monkey. You just have to be yourself. What others think has nothing to do with you. Perfected Ji Yan said. Wen Qingfan said respectfully, Junior sometimes thinks the same, but the spiritual energy in heaven and earth is changing, and the immortal cultivation sects are struggling to cope with it. Our immortal cultivation clans are having a hard time, and I don't think I can shoulder this burden. So you ran away from it. So you indulged in wine and women. Perfected Ji Yen scolded. Wen Qingfan's face turned red, and he almost groaned. Junior won't dare to do it again, this is the worst era. Old man Gu Qiong lamented as he looked at coiling Dragon Mountain in the distance. Under the sunlight, rays of golden light reflected from the palaces on coiling Dragon Mountain. At the same time, this is also the best era. In the future, you'll definitely be more famous than Old Monkey. Junior. When Qingfan was shocked and said anxiously, "How can I compare to Lord Marquis? Take a look at this." Old man Gu Qiong gave Wen Qingfan the Dao Alliance's alliance token, the Spirit Root Selection Method, and the Spirit Root Cultivation Method. Wen Qingfan glanced at it, and his whole body trembled. He said in surprise, "This Senior Zhang is Zhang Xiaohua." That's right. She's Zhang Xiaohua, whom your Wen clan met in the Fengyan Kingdom. She's currently in your Wen clan's meeting hall. Perfected Ji Yen nodded. Think about it. If the Chanha sect is the origin of the Spirit Root Selection Method, then isn't your Wen clan the origin of the Spirit Root Cultivation Method? Junior. Junior understands. When Qingfan replied excitedly, as if he could already see the Wen clan's bright future, as for Xiaohua, he stepped into the teleportation array. Buzz. The movement inside the teleportation array was no different from what Xiaohua had expected. Moreover, it didn't last for long. In just a few breaths, Xiaohua felt a light flash in front of his eyes as he entered another space. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a tip, and... Chapter 49:13. Because they were teleported in Panlong Mountain, the distance was very short. Even Nuo Yeqing, who was in the foundation establishment stage, didn't feel any special discomfort. When Xiaohua stepped out of the teleportation channel, Nuo Yeqing was already standing firmly in the air with Lu Qingyu's help. However, when Xiaohua stood in the air and looked around, his expression immediately changed. This space was very large, probably hundreds of miles. In the distance, different lights flashed, and at the same time, there were different spiritual power fluctuations. Obviously, there were different restrictions. Looking at Xiaohua and the others, there were nearly 100,000 children sitting cross-legged. These children were like when Zhou said, the youngest was 2 or 3 years old, and the oldest was only 14 or 15 years old. These children were divided into 49 areas. These areas looked a little messy, but in fact, they were orderly. In the middle of the areas, there were some disciples of the Wen family. These disciples were mostly in the foundation establishment stage. Different from the children, these disciples didn't sit cross-legged, but stood in various places. But strangely, these disciples stood like clay sculptures, motionless, and even a few of them seemed to be walking. Looking at the surroundings, although there were many flashes of light that illuminated the space, after the flashes of light, faint crimson blood threads seeped out like mercury flowing down the ground. In particular, under the children, there were other areas. The dense blood seals, which ordinary cultivators couldn't detect at all, were clearly seen in Xiaohua's eyes. Xiaohua's expression changed greatly. Without any hesitation, he waved his hand and took out the Kunlun mirror. He hurriedly shouted, "Nuo Yeqing. Listen to my command, don't resist, we've been ambushed." After that, Xiaohua's mind was like the wind. He immediately swept towards Lu Qingyu, Yuehua, and Nuo Yeqing, wanting to put the 3 of them into the space. Unfortunately, whether it was Nuo Yeqing, Lu Qingyu, or Yuehua, they just landed in the space. They just saw the situation of the space and didn't find anything strange. Although Xiaohua had ordered, they didn't know how to cooperate. Xiaohua's mind swept over them, but he couldn't put them into the space. Ha ha ha. In the distance, when Zhou's voice sounded like an owl, after entering the blood formation, you still want to get out alive? Zhang Xiaohua, you're too naive. How could Xiaohua be long-winded with Wen Zhou? His divine thought turned into a hammer. Even Lu Qingyu and Yue Hua, who were as strong as the gold core stage, couldn't withstand it and fainted. After putting Lu Qingyu and the others into the space, Xiao hurriedly swept his mind, wanting to put the children and the Wen family disciples in the formation. However, Lu Qingyu and the others had just disappeared from the space. The shadows rushed, not only drowning nearly 100,000 children and disciples, but also rushed towards Xiaohua like a poisonous pythons. Puff 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 puff. However, the moment the demonic rune shadows submerged the children's bodies, the bodies of the nearly 100,000 children and hundreds of Wen family disciples immediately burst like bubbles. Blood mixed with flesh and blood filled the space like a tidal wave. But as blood's blood is. But. Was SSS blood's tia, is. Boom, boom, boom. As the demonic patterns rushed out, the various restrictions in the space also let out explosive sounds. After the fluctuations of the Dao Sect Dharma array were annihilated, hundreds of demonic arrays were activated. Countless cries came from all over the space. Within the blood array and the demonic array, the cries of children and the screams of the Wen family disciples could be heard one after another. Every soul was struggling in the waves of blood. What was special was that near these souls, thumb-sized blood droplets had already condensed and were spinning around. Looking at the other demonic arrays, there were also many blood droplets moving restlessly. Damn it! Xiaohua was unable to restrain his anger. His eyes were red as he looked into the distance. Nearly 100,000 children had been killed in front of him. This was something that had never happened before. Although Xiaohua understood in his heart that these children had probably died before he entered the space. What's going on? Wen Zhou saw the soaring demonic patterns wreaking havoc in the space, but when the countless demonic pattern phantoms collided with Xiaohua's body, he didn't see any special changes in Xiaohua's body, nor did he see any blood shadow flying out, let alone his body collapsing. Wen Zhou couldn't help but be startled. However, Wen Zhou wasn't particularly surprised. His figure swayed, and it was as if he didn't exist in the sky full of blood shadows. Then, he opened his mouth. Woo! A column of blood light spurted out, and it turned into hundreds of tentacles that fell in all directions. Where the tentacles landed, beads of blood began to rapidly gather, and the howling souls were gradually torn apart. Xiaohua had already released his divine sense, and when he had collected the moonlight, he had wanted to pull a few Fortune Gate disciples out. However, seeing how powerful the spatial devil formation was, and when Zhen was a grand ascension stage cultivator, Xiaohua was afraid that the Fortune Gate disciples would be harmed, which was why he had hesitated. Now that he saw Wen Zhou activating the spatial devil formation, he hurriedly circulated his magic power to stop him. Unfortunately, the spatial devil formation had already isolated Xiaohua's scattered nascent soul and Dao seed, so he couldn't activate it. What could he do now? Seeing the souls disappearing one after another, Xiaohua didn't dare to overthink. He quickly released his netherworld origin force, and his divine sense swept through the spatial devil formation like a hurricane. Wen Zhou. Xiaohua pretended to move his body and shouted in exasperation, I have no enmity with you. It doesn't matter if you are the Wen family's old ancestor or a demon, it has nothing to do with me. Moreover, your bullshit spatial devil formation seems to have taken shape, it doesn't matter whether I'm here or not. Why do you have to drag me to my death? Wen Zhou, like Xiaohua, was fully focused on activating the spatial devil formation, so he ignored Xiaohua. A moment later, dozens of large and small vortexes appeared in the spatial devil formation. These vortexes emitted whimpering sounds, and the suction force gradually increased, enveloping the entire spatial devil formation. Only then did Xiao Hua's figure stop moving. He coldly looked at Xiao Hua and said, "Since you know that I'm a devil, you should know that, whether it's the Tao Alliance or the Heaven Alliance, they're all food in my devil race's eyes. Tell me, who would like powerful food?" With the changes in heaven and earth's spiritual energy, the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance's high-level cultivators are dying, and the low-level cultivators are unable to cultivate. This Yilin mainland will soon become a paradise for my devil race. And now, you, a little fellow who came out of nowhere, has appeared. You actually brought some spirit root technique, and can even allow humans with spirit roots to cultivate. If I don't kill you, who else can I kill? Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, donate it, and thank you for all forms of support. Thank you for the support represented by Benbin, Cabbage, Daoish Xiao, Chuan Tong, Lonesome Flourishing Fleeting, and Chuan Chuan's dad. Chapter 49:14. Xiao Hua quietly collected the soul, but his mouth cursed again. "So you had already arranged all of this when you received Wenjin's message." "That's right." Wenzhou's eyes were already blood red, and his face was covered with veins. The veins were similar to demonic patterns, and they spread all over his body. "I've been scheming to set up this blood formation, but I didn't have any excuse." At this time, the Tao Alliance meeting was held, and the Wen clan's patriarch left. I naturally came out of seclusion and took over the clan's power. But that's not enough. I still have to successfully refine the most important million-spirit blood pearl without leaving a trace. Now that your spiritual root selection method has appeared, it's really laughable. Look at how overjoyed the Wen clan's disciples were. How could they know that they had personally sent their own juniors to their deaths? Damn it! Xiao Hua cursed in his heart, but he didn't dare to stop. He wanted to save more human wandering souls before the blood formation was completed. "Zhang Xiaohua, do you know?" When Zhou didn't seem to notice the disappearance of the soul and only sneered, "I've been waiting for you until my heart ached. If you don't come, how can I complete my plan? Are you so sincere in killing me?" Xiao Hua spoke to Wen Zhou while looking around, as if looking for a flaw in the demonic formation. Wen Zhou laughed, "You don't have to look. When you came in, I already sealed the space formation. With your strength, you can't go out. Alright, since I'm going to die, I'll die knowing." Xiao Hua withdrew his gaze and looked at Wen Zhou, saying, "Isn't it just the spiritual root selection method? You want to kill I with your own hands so much? That's not it." The blood veins around Wen Zhou continued to spread, and he said, "Before I see the heavenly plum token and the golden core cultivation method, it doesn't matter whether I kill you or not. But I need you to come because I want to activate the blood formation." Without any pretense, wouldn't the Wen clan be aware of this blood formation? "If you don't come, how can I scatter the blood fiend?" When Xiao Hua heard this, he immediately thought of the scarlet light in the sky. However, he still asked curiously, "What's the heavenly plum token? Why did you have to destroy it?" "Ha ha ha." When Zhou burst into laughter, and a blood mist suddenly appeared around him. The blood tattoos that had covered his entire body turned into devil tattoos, and numerous thumb-sized devil heads poked their heads out of the devil tattoos, squeaking and squeaking. The aura of an early Grand Ascension stage cultivator suddenly surged into the Devil Emperor stage, and was comparable to a peak 8th grade Origin Energy Realm cultivator. When Zhou even opened his bloody mouth and shouted, "Zhang Xiaohua. Don't think this old man doesn't know what you're trying to do. You're far too bold. Not only did you not try to escape from this old man's demonic array space, you even tried to secretly collect wandering souls. Could it be that you really have 3 heads and 6 arms. However, even if you have 3 heads and 6 arms, this old man will still kill you. Damn it. Xiaohua cursed when he heard that Wen Zhou had exposed his intentions. He circulated his magic power and fled far away. At the same time, he controlled the Netherworld Origin Force to collect the last of the wandering souls into the yin side of the space. Seeing that Xiaohua's escape technique was similar to his cultivation realm, Wen Zhou's figure blurred, appearing behind Xiaohua in the blink of an eye. His hand grabbed out, and layers of devil flames mixed with strands of blood-red light condensed into a devil's palm, slamming down on Xiaohua. The devil's palm not only sealed the space several hundred zhang around Xiaohua, but hundreds of little devils also poked their heads out from the devil's palm, their mouths wide open as they pounced on Xiaohua. Wen Zhou's strength had risen sharply, reaching the peak of the 8th level of origin energy. Therefore, Xiaohua didn't dare to drag out the Fortune Gate's disciples. Moreover, Xiaohua's current strength was far inferior to Wen Zhou's. As the devil's palm fell, Xiaohua's flying figure slowed down as if he had fallen into a swamp. However, Xiaohua wasn't nervous at all. Sensing that the devil's palm was only a few feet away from him, he abruptly turned around and laughed. This old man doesn't have 3 heads and 6 arms, but this old man won't disappoint you. With that said, his divine sense condensed into a hammer, smashing towards the devil's palm with more power than a magic treasure. Boom! A loud explosion sounded. Although the devil's palm didn't shatter, a several zhang-wide hole appeared at the center of the devil's palm. Moreover, wherever Xiaohua's divine sense passed, the blood-red waves were scattered, and even rushed towards Wen Zhou's body. How is this possible? A human's divine sense is actually so powerful. Wen Zhou was astounded. A human's divine sense had always been devoured by the devil's blood shadows, and he had never seen a divine sense that could destroy the devil flames. While he was shocked, he didn't dare to be careless. His other hand clenched into a fist, and a blood-red bone spear appeared. He swung the bone spear with all his might, aiming at Xiaohua's divine sense. The bone spear pierced through the air, and the sound of water splashing could be heard. Xiaohua was startled and hurriedly dispersed his divine sense, but he didn't retreat. Instead, he turned into a streak of light, passing through the devil's palm and arriving in front of Wen Zhou. Wen Zhou was also quite capable. Seeing the strange disappearance of Xiaohua's divine sense, he already knew that Xiaohua wasn't as simple as he thought. The devil's palm swung, and the blood-red bone spear once again slashed across the blood-red sea, piercing towards Xiaohua. Humph, a puny devil emperor dares to be arrogant in front of this old man. Xiaohua wasn't nervous in the slightest when he saw the bone spear flying towards him. He sneered coldly and took out an item from his space. The moment this item appeared, the devil wind immediately pierced the bones, and the blood shadows nearby all condensed towards this item. Kang! A light sound rang out, and the bone spear was blocked by this item. In the midst of the sound of metal clashing, the bone spear immediately turned into powder. Not only that, after the bone spear, Wen Zhou's devil arm was also pierced by this item. A burst of sizzling sounds, and the heart-wrenching cries of the devil on Wen Zhou's devil arm resounded in the nearby space. Qiu Yinlu. Wen Zhou was shocked and shouted, You know Jiping. You're the Northern Jian Devil Domain's devil commander. Damn it. Wen Zhou screamed, and without any hesitation, his devil body quickly retreated. The devil arm that was pierced by the Qiu Yinlu was cut off from the root, and he abandoned it. However, as the devil arm was cut off, and as the devil qi from the Qiu Yinlu forced into Wen Zhou's devil body, the originally complete devil marks were broken inch by inch. Wen Zhou's devil body rapidly shrank, and the devil qi also faded away. In just a moment, he was actually only at the 6th stage of the Devil King realm. So you're just a thing that looks strong on the outside but is actually weak on the inside. Xiao Hua held the Qiu Yinlu in his hand and sneered, "Today, you'll pay with your life." P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and... Chapter 49:15. Hee, of course it's easy to take this old man's life. Wen Zhou panicked at first, but then he suddenly sneered, "This old man never planned to leave alive. You should be worried about how you're going to escape." With that, Wen Zhou's devil body suddenly exploded. Even Wen Zhou's soul didn't manage to escape as it instantly turned into fragments and fell into the space. Woo woo. A strange scene occurred again. Whether it was Wen Zhou's soul fragments or the devil body's blood, just as they fell into the air, they immediately turned into hundreds of black shadows that rushed towards the surroundings of the devil formation space and disappeared. The originally monstrous blood vortexes suddenly collided with each other. In just a few breaths, all the vortexes merged into two. One was like an inverted funnel that buckled on top of the space. The huge vortex produced a suction force that wanted to pull Xiao Hua up into the sky. The other vortex was similar to the one above the space, but it completely covered the bottom of the space. Similarly, a huge force was produced that wanted to pull Xiao Hua down into the abyss. Under the two loopholes, the forces were balanced and Xiao Hua actually stood steadily in the air. What is this damned Wen Zhou planning? Xiao Hua didn't believe that this was the true face of the devil formation space. He hurriedly urged his body to fly towards the edge of the devil formation. However, this devil formation space was so huge that Xiao Hua's cultivation hadn't recovered yet, so he actually flew very slowly. At this moment, the blood droplets that had almost disappeared earlier suddenly appeared from the two vortexes. A total of 177,777 blood pearls enveloped the space of the demonic array, and a kind of extremely cold and evil blood energy instantly imprisoned Xiao Hua. Damn it! This is the soul power of 170,000 Wen clan disciples. Xiao Hua cursed, "I don't know how Wen Zhou collected it, but it seems, this Wen clan descendant is definitely not ordinary. This Wen clan disciple's bloodline power is actually so strong." Xiao Hua tried his best to move his body towards the sky, wanting to avoid this peerless blood energy. Boom! Xiao Hua only flew a few dozen feet when the entire devil formation space shook. 170,000 blood droplets rapidly condensed towards the center. At the same time, outside the blood droplets, the two vortexes in the devil formation space rapidly expanded. Outside the space, there was actually the sound of mountains collapsing and the earth cracking. What kind of demonic array is this? Xiao Hua was a little embarrassed and angry. No matter what, one of his avatars was still a demon venerable. Furthermore, it was a condensed body of a demon spirit from a demon array. However, no matter how he looked at it, the demon array was unfamiliar to him. It was as if he had never seen it before. That's not right. This. How can there be a summer fruit effect in the demon race? Xiao Hua suddenly had a kind of realization, but before he could make up his mind to take out the devil blade murder, rumble. An almost incomparably huge force was born from his body. Through the blood shadow, Xiao Hua already understood that the vortex that was originally like a funnel suddenly turned upside down. The entire vortex surged upwards, and the suction force suddenly turned into a pushing force, combining with the suction force of the inverted funnel from before, simultaneously pushing the blood bead and Xiao Hua into the tip of the vortex. We've been tricked. Xiao Hua suddenly came to a realization. The true goal of this demon clan was the sky, not the ground. He had outsmarted himself. Under the huge force, Xiaohua's figure rushed into the tip of the vortex with the blood beads around him. After reaching the tip of the vortex, the blood beads that were several acres in size condensed into the size of a fist. When the blood beads crashed into the top of the vortex, a layer of strange demon runes appeared at the tip, and as soon as the blood beads entered, they instantly disappeared. Looking at the whirlpool below, it crashed into the whirlpool above like a tsunami. The blood waves collided, and the force that could tear a mountain apart immediately burst towards the surroundings of the demonic array. The demonic array instantly collapsed, and there was another layer of Tao array outside the demonic array. This array had already been destroyed when the demonic array was expanding. As for outside the Tao sect array, it was naturally the fourth mountain range of Coiling Dragon Mountain. The blood waves of the demon array were like the blood of a coiling dragon seeping out of the mountain range. The huge force was like a demon hand striking out from the depths of the earth, splitting Coiling Dragon Mountain in half. Of course, Wen Qingfan would never have dreamed that such a huge change would occur in the fourth mountain range of Coiling Dragon Mountain. The fourth ancestor of the Wen clan, Wen Zhou, was actually a demon. He happily called out to old man Gu Qiong, "Okay, I'll ask Wen Jin to come over now." "Okay." Old man Gu Qiong nodded slightly, but before he could finish speaking, he suddenly turned to look at Coiling Dragon Mountain in shock. Beside him, Ji Yan's expression also changed and he shouted, "Oh no! Hurry!" Old man Gu Qiong didn't hesitate at all. With a shout, his figure flickered and he immediately disappeared. Alliance Master. Wen Qingfan was surprised and was about to look at Ji Yan in confusion, but Ji Yan's figure was nowhere to be seen. That's strange. What's going on? Wen Qingfan was puzzled. Just as he was about to teleport over, boom boom boom. An earth-shattering sound came from the Pan Long Mountain in the distance. Then, the space within a few thousand miles of the Wen clan shook. Crimson demonic light rose from the center of Coiling Dragon Mountain in front of Wen Qingfan's eyes and then spread out in all directions. Along with the demonic light, Coiling Dragon Mountain began to collapse from the bottom, and the ground around it also began to collapse. Not only that, but the moment the demonic light appeared, a celestial phenomenon appeared in the sky. Huge rings of spatial faults piled up together, hanging down from the sky at an extremely fast speed. The black and white spatial faults looked like hanging tree rings. What's going on? Wen Qingfan was shocked and hurriedly used his spiritual power to teleport toward Coiling Dragon Mountain. However, he only managed to teleport a few dozen miles before he was squeezed out of the void. The space around Coiling Dragon Mountain was sealed, and he couldn't teleport. Damn it! Wen Qingfan cursed inwardly. He didn't dare to hesitate and used his escape technique to rush toward Coiling Dragon Mountain like a meteor. Ji Yan Jinren and old man Gu Qiong were naturally one step ahead of Wen Qingfan, and they were already in front of the mountain. However, the powerful spatial imprisonment force prevented them from teleporting. Ji Yan Jinren released his divine sense to check the situation and said with a gloomy face, "Senior, we've been planning for so long that we forgot about the demon race. Is Zhang Xiaohua a devil clan member? The devil chi within 500 miles of Coiling Dragon Mountain is very strong. I'm afraid 100,000 creatures have been sacrificed. How could Zhang Xiaohua have so much time?" Old man Gu Qiong's expression changed slightly as he looked into the distance. Although his divine sense was blocked, he could see Fairy Mo Yun, the Yi family patriarch, and the others surrounding Coiling Dragon Mountain. He said, "They should be from the Wen family." P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a tip, and Chapter 49:16. Boom! Boom! At this moment, there was a loud explosion several times louder than the previous one. The peak of Coiling Dragon Mountain was lifted, and a crimson blood bead that was dozens of miles wide rushed into the sky. Blood Spirit Bead. Old Man Gu Qiong looked at it and exclaimed, "How can it be so big?" As soon as Old Man Gu Qiong finished speaking, the Blood Spirit Bead shrank even more as it rushed into the sky. Humph. Old Man Gu Qiong snorted and grabbed at the air. His huge hand grew to the size of dozens of acres and rushed into the sky to grab the Blood Spirit Bead. However, before Old Man Gu Qiong's hand could get close, the demonic blood sea under Coiling Dragon Mountain exploded. The demonic array above Coiling Dragon Mountain was originally imprisoned by the demonic array, and now that it was disrupted, the space overlapped, and Old Man Gu Qiong's hand was torn apart by the power of space. Stay here. Seeing that Old Man Gu Qiong's hand had failed to grab the Blood Spirit Bead, Ji Yen Spiritual Master, Yi Family Patriarch, and the others roared. Several huge hands appeared from all directions and sealed the space above Coiling Dragon Mountain. However, they were too slow. When Old Man Gu Qiong waved his hand, the Blood Spirit Bead had already shrunk to the size of a wicker basket and approached the spatial fault in the sky. When Old Man Gu Qiong's hand was torn apart, the Blood Spirit Bead touched the spatial fault. In an instant, the Blood Spirit Bead shrank to the size of a thumb and disappeared into the spatial fault. Then, the spatial fault shrank rapidly and turned into a black and white line. The Blood Spirit Bead spun in the black and white line for a moment before it disappeared. At the same time, the black and white line that pierced into the sky strangely disappeared. It was only now that the seals of several supreme cultivators arrived. What they had sealed were merely some void embers. Things were far from over. After the supreme cultivators sealed the sky, the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. Coiling Dragon Mountain collapsed one after another, and the land nearby also collapsed. The beautiful scenery was about to be destroyed. Forget about the Blood Fiend Spiritual Pearl for now. Old Man Gu Qiong made a decision after scanning the area with his divine sense. The demonic array on Coiling Dragon Mountain has collapsed, and it has triggered the power of the earth. This should be the demon race's backup plan. Once we control the demonic array, the power of the earth will disappear. All right. After receiving the order, Immortal Ji Yen raised his hand and slapped the top of his head. Boom! A clear light rushed out, and a seal engraved with the word Heaven and Earth rose into the sky. Immortal Ji Yen channeled his magic power, and the seal became larger than a mountain and pressed down on the eastern land. Watch this old man. The Yi clan's ancestor didn't dare to be negligent. He opened his mouth and a palm-sized jade rui flew out. Boom boom boom. As the Yi clan's ancestor urged his magic power, the jade rui transformed into the shape of an azure dragon and pounced towards the western land, similarly suppressing a part of the demonic array. Wen Zhou was only a Mahayana realm cultivator and had barely touched the Demon Emperor realm with the help of demonic patterns and demonic arrays. Under the full suppression of the two tribulation passing cultivators, the demon race was suppressed. The mountains stopped collapsing and the earth stopped collapsing. However, streams of water seeped out from the depths of the earth. Fortunately, Wen Zhou had to refine the Blood Fiend Spiritual Pearl with all his strength and didn't dare to waste a trace of blood mist. Therefore, the water that flowed out was spring water. Although it wasn't very clear, it wouldn't destroy Coiling Dragon Mountain. Wanderer Fu Bo, Yu Hongzi, and Fairy Mo Yun had already summoned their natal spiritual treasures. Seeing that the demonic array was suppressed, they relaxed their vigilance. Fairy Mo Yun waved her sleeve and released a parrot. The parrot flapped its wings and flew into the void. A moment later, it appeared in front of the collapsed earth. The parrot opened its mouth and spat out a beam of orange light, which turned into a net and scattered in all directions. After 5 minutes, the orange light disappeared. The parrot squawked and flew back into the void, appearing in front of Fairy Imo-yun again. The parrot said a few words that sounded like a human and then returned to Fairy Imo-yun's sleeve. Fairy Imo-yun said, "Everyone, the demonic array under the ground has disappeared. However, there are no traces of demons or humans. There isn't even a trace of a soul." "Thank you, Fairy." Daoist Ji Yan's face was filled with anger. He didn't take back the heaven and earth seal. Instead, he said to Yi family's ancestor, "Fellow Daoist, don't worry. We'll suppress this array first and talk about it after we figure out what happened." "No problem." Yi family's ancestor looked around and replied, "Fellow Daoists, don't let down your guard. Don't let the remaining demons slip away." At this moment, Wen Qingfan flew over with an ashen face. He had to admit that the world's sorrow and joy were too unpredictable. Just a moment ago, he was still imagining the bright future of the Wen family. In just a moment, not only did the future turn into darkness, the Wen family's ancestral property was almost completely lost. If it weren't for Daoist Ji Yan and a few other supreme cultivators, Wen Qingfan wouldn't have the face to see his ancestors in the underworld even if he died. "Senior." Wen Qingfan's voice was a little hoarse as he asked anxiously, "What happened?" Daoist Ji Yan was also angry and cursed, "Damn it. Do you still have to ask me what happened to your Wen family?" Old man Gu Qiong said resentfully, "You're the Wen family's patriarch. We're guests from afar. You decide how to deal with this." Although Wen Qingfan was a little dispirited, he was still the patriarch of the Wen family. After being reprimanded by Ji Yan and old man Gu Qiong, he perked up and issued an order to the Wen family elders, Wen Qing and Wen Yushi, to lead the Wen family disciples to rescue the disciples who were in danger when Panlong Mountain collapsed. The Wen family's disciples had been frightened out of their wits by the anomaly on Coiling Dragon Mountain. Some fled while others wandered around. Now that their patriarch had returned, they felt reassured and began to work. When the casualties became clearer, Wen Qingfan ordered Wen Zhuqi to calm the disciples down. He also asked the steward and the deacon to discuss other emergency matters in the Wen family. When it was dark, Wen Qingfan summoned Wen Zhen and asked him about the adventure and the encounter with Zhang Xiaohua. Then, he praised Wen Zhen and called Wen Qing, Wen Yushi, and Wen Zhuqi over to ask about everything that happened after he left the Wen family and after Zhang Xiaohua came to the conference hall. Naturally, the three elders reported everything in detail. They even told him about the heavenly plum token. The demonic array was completely suppressed. After the Wen family's disciples searched, the Yi family's patriarch and Fairy Imo-yun searched again. After making sure that they didn't miss anything, they put away their spiritual treasures and stood in the air, quietly watching Wen Qingfan deal with all the affairs. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, and give it a tip. Chapter 49:17. The Wen clan disciples heard what Wen Zhen and the three elders said, but the more they listened, the more confused they became. They really didn't understand what had happened on Coiling Dragon Mountain. "Seniors." Wen Qingfan pondered for a moment and reported, "I have some speculations. If possible, please serve me tea in the guest hall. I'll report everything to you." "No need." Old man Gu Qiong waved his hand and said, "Since the Wen clan has undergone a drastic change, we won't nag you anymore. You can speak now, there aren't any outsiders here." "Yes." Wen Qingfan replied. After organizing his thoughts, he said, "Based on what I know, there are only two speculations." "Oh. There are actually two. Tell me." Ji Yan smiled and took the opportunity to ask. First, Zhang Xiaohua is a demon. Wen Qingfan said decisively, her so-called spirit root selection method and spirit root cultivation method are both flawed cultivation methods. If our Dao Alliance cultivators cultivate them, it will be difficult for them to reach the greater mastery stage. There might even be a disaster. Although we can't see any flaws, we can't guard against the demon's cultivation method. When we encounter the demon, our human race will be captured. As for why Zhang Xiaohua came to our Wen clan, she met up with Wen Zhou, whose body was possessed by the demon. Then, Zhang Xiaohua perished together with Wen Zhou and turned into a spirit blood pearl. Yi clan's patriarch asked sarcastically before Wen Qingfan could finish. Wen Qingfan shrugged and said seriously, as for why Zhang Xiaohua came to Coiling Dragon Mountain to cooperate with Wen Zhou, this junior doesn't know. Didn't senior say earlier that there was a spirit blood pearl? With the blood fiend spirit pearl, they must have used it to escape to the devil realm. Old man Gu Qiong seemed to want to give Wen Qingfan some pointers and said, the spirit blood pearl is commonly known as the myriad spirit pearl. However, based on what I know, the real spirit blood pearl is not the ordinary myriad spirit pearl. Generally speaking, the myriad spirit pearl was made from the blood spirits of the human race. However, the blood evil spirit pearl was not only made from the blood spirits of the human race, but also from the blood spirits of the devil race, the spirit race, and other races. In other words, since the demonic array has condensed into a blood fiend spirit pearl, then within the demonic array, whether it's the human race, the devil race, or even the demonic beasts, none will survive. Furthermore, this old man and fairy Mo Yun have already investigated carefully. The demonic formation has already dissipated, and there are no traces of humans or demons nearby. Yi clan's ancestor continued. Ji Yanjinren said faintly, don't worry. Even if Zhang Xiaohua is a demon, he won't be able to escape with the help of this pearl. No matter if it was the myriad spirit pearl or the blood evil spirit pearl, only blood spirits and souls could exist in it. Humans and demons could not survive in it. So, Zhang Xiaohua would not foolishly borrow the demonic blood pearl to escape. Secondly, Zhang Xiaohua is not a demon. When Qingfan said, then, it's very interesting that Wen Zhou killed Zhang Xiaohua. In other words, Zhang Xiaohua's luck is extremely bad. I know the effect of the neon sky welcoming the guest. There was no red light around Coiling Dragon Mountain, so that light must have been activated by the demonic array. Wen Zhou waited for Zhang Xiaohua to come here to deceive others. Well, your analysis is right. That's the reason. Elder Gu Qiong nodded with a smile. Anything else? Anne. When Qingfan glanced at Elder Gu Qiong with a bitter expression and said, since Zhang Xiaohua is a human, no matter whether he is a cultivator of the Heaven Alliance or the Dao Alliance, he has mastered the secret method to modify the cultivation methods of the Dao Alliance. He has become the hope of the Dao Alliance. In order to kill the Dao Alliance, Wen Zhou lured Zhang Xiaohua and the others into the demonic array and killed them. Ji Yanjinren was shocked and hurriedly asked, what do you mean, Wen Qingfan? Didn't Wen Zhou kill Zhang Xiaohua for the Heavenly Plum Token? Wen Qingfan explained, the Heavenly Plum Token is important, but it's only important to the Wen family. It's not important to the entire Dao Alliance. I've read the Alliance Master's Jade Slip and know that he has obtained the cultivation methods modified by Zhang Xiaohua. However, most of them are for qi refinement, and only one is for foundation establishment. I heard from Wen Qing that Zhang Xiaohua has finished modifying the foundation establishment cultivation method and is now modifying the golden core cultivation method. However, these cultivation methods. Damn it! Ji Yanjinren was furious. Wen Zhou must have taken these cultivation method jade slips and the heavenly plum token and destroyed them in the demonic array. Moreover, he killed fellow Daoist Zhang, who knows how to modify the cultivation methods. That's right. Wen Qingfan said helplessly, I gave the sect token to Wen Zhou. He has the authority to deal with any affairs in the sect. When was Wen Zhou possessed by the demon clan? Don't tell me you don't know anything about it. Elder Gu Qiong asked harshly. Wen Qingfan trembled, but he answered honestly, I really don't know. Didn't you leave any jade slips behind? The Yi family's patriarch looked at Wen Qing and the other elders and asked unwillingly. Wen Qing smiled wryly. Senior, we were overjoyed when we saw the heavenly plum token. Then, we remembered that Senior Zhang had arrived at Coiling Dragon Mountain and given the cultivation method jade slips to the fourth ancestor. We would see them sooner or later, that. At this moment, Wen Zhen, who couldn't get close due to his shallow cultivation, raised his hand and timidly shouted, Seniors, Junior has some copies of jade slips, swoosh. Before Wen Zhen could finish, Ji Yanjinren teleported to his side and raised his hand. Give them to me. Yes. Wen Zhen agreed, but he didn't take them out. He only looked at Wen Qingfan. Don't worry. Elder Gu Qiong said with a smile. If this cultivation method is useful, the Dao Alliance will let your family head rejoin the Dao Alliance and reward your Wen family generously. Give it to Senior Ji Yan. Wen Qingfan hurriedly urged Wen Zhen. Ji Yanjinren took the jade slips from Wen Zhen, but he didn't read them immediately. Instead, he copied them and gave them to Elder Gu Qiong and the others. Then, he released his divine telekinesis to read them. Ah! Ji Yanjinren was so happy that he couldn't help but howl at the sky. His howl shattered the dark clouds in the night sky, and moonlight poured down like water. Damn it! Ji Yanjinren scolded jokingly. These are all the Qi refinement and foundation establishment cultivation methods, as well as a few golden core cultivation methods. It seems to be more complete than what Wen Qingfan said. Why did you copy them secretly? P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, or give it a tip. Chapter 49:18. To tell you the truth, after Senior Zhang gave this cultivation technique to the family head, I realized it would be very difficult for me to get it again. Wen Zhen explained embarrassedly, so, this junior secretly made a copy of the cultivation technique while discussing it with Senior Zhang. Senior Zhang is a very nice person, and he knows this junior's thoughts. Sometimes, he doesn't need this junior to make a copy, and he gives this junior 2 copies. Alas, the ancients are right. Only when you lose something do you realize how precious it is. Old man Gu Qiong sighed and said, previously, we were discussing fellow Zhang Xiaohua's background. Now it seems that no matter whether he was from the Dao Alliance, the Heaven Alliance, or the Lost Land, he is still a cultivator of our Dao sect. As long as he can help us modify our cultivation techniques and allow our Dao sect to survive and develop under the change of heaven and earth spirit Qi, he will be our Dao sect savior. Unfortunately, fellow Daoist Zhang has fallen. Daoist Ji Yan also sighed, but he still raised the jade slip in his hand and said, fortunately, he left behind some cultivation techniques before he died. Not only can we let our juniors practice these cultivation techniques, but we can also use them as a blueprint to understand his method of modifying cultivation techniques and modify more cultivation techniques. Daoist Ji Yan looked at Wen Qingfan and said, of course, these cultivation technique jade slips were obtained from the Wen family by the Dao Alliance. I'll issue an Alliance Master token to let the Wen family make amends for their mistakes and reward them generously. Thank you for your help, seniors. Wen Qingfan hurriedly bowed. Get up. Old man Gu Qiong helped Wen Qingfan up and said with a smile, Qingfan, from the way you handled the sex affairs, I can see that you are not incompetent. In fact, you are very capable and can be considered a competent family head. The old monkey did nothing wrong by handing the Wen family to you. However, you are still not confident. Confidence is the foundation of everything. Only with confidence can you do things well. Only with confidence can you be a good family head. Perhaps you don't know this, but the old monkey once told me about you and the origin of your name. The word ordinary is because he knows that you are a little introverted. Compared to those who show off their abilities, you are too ordinary. However, he specially asked your father to add the word Qing to your name. As long as you take on any ordinary task, you will succeed. When Qingfan didn't expect his name to have such a history, he couldn't help but burst into tears. How was he a Mahayana cultivator? Alright, it's time for me to leave. Get the Wen family disciples to activate the teleportation array. Old man Gu Qiong helped Wen Qingfan up with a smile and said, the Wen clan has many things to do now. Moreover, you've made a great contribution, so you have to deal with it well. Don't disappoint me. However, old man Gu Qiong felt that his words were inappropriate and he waved his hand. My thoughts have nothing to do with you. If you have any difficulties, feel free to look for me. Yes, this junior understands. When Qingfan shed tears of gratitude and was about to bow again when old man Gu Qiong's figure flickered and disappeared. Ji Yan and the others had already teleported away to follow old man Gu Qiong. Farewell, seniors. When Qingfan didn't dare to be rude and hurriedly issued the sect master's order to activate the teleportation array. Teleportation consumed one's lifespan, so old man Gu Qiong and the others had only flown for a few hundred kilometers before they reappeared. When Ji Yan was looking for a teleportation array, the Yi family's patriarch sighed and said, fellow Daoist Ji Yan, do you think fellow Daoist Zhang died in the demonic array? Ji Yan naturally understood the Yi family's patriarch's reluctance and asked in return, if it were fellow Daoist Yi, how confident would he have been in escaping? Naturally, I have a 60% chance of escaping. Yi clan's elder replied without any hesitation. But in reality, perfected Ji Yan raised his hand and pointed in a direction. He flew slowly and asked, did you see the corpses of Zhang Xiaohua, Yuehua of the Chanhe sect, Lu Qingyu, and Nuo Yeqing in the ruins of the demon array? No. The Yi family's patriarch replied. Fairy Mo Yun also said, that's right. Although fellow Daoist Zhang is a peerless scholar, he broke into this realm and lost all his magic power. He wanted to rely on Yuehua and Lu Qingyu, two golden core cultivators, to protect him. How could he have escaped from the demonic array? Yijin said 60%, but that was an estimate when he faced the demonic array directly. Old man Gu Qiong said, I heard from the Wen family's elders that even they couldn't tell that Wen Zhou was a demon. How could fellow Daoist Zhang have known? Caught off guard, even with Yijin's ability, he only had a 40% chance. Moreover, didn't Ji Yan say at the Alliance conference that more than 2 million people had died? Nearly 2 million disciples from the various clans of our Dao Alliance have already been killed. If my guess is correct, the Wen clan should be one of those clans as well. Not a single one of those clans' disciples managed to escape alive. I'm afraid that fellow Daoist Zhang is most likely doomed as well. Wanderer Fu Bo, who had been silent all this time, said, I don't want to believe that Zhang Xiaohua has died, but it's the truth. It's useless for us to say more. Yu Hongzi also echoed, that's right. Fellow Daoist Zhang has died, so it's up to us now. There are countless capable people in the Dao Alliance. Since we have the method to select spiritual roots and cultivate low-grade spiritual roots, I'm sure it won't be long before we have more cultivation techniques that can adapt to the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Yes, there's no need for the alliance leader to search for fellow Daoist Zhang anymore. Ji Yanjinren nodded and said, let's make this cultivation technique public and let them find a way to modify it. We'll continue to the Heaven Alliance's forbidden area. Also, we'll look around carefully to see if we can find any traces of the demon's attack. As they spoke, they arrived at the Wen family's teleportation array. After the Wen family's disciples activated the teleportation array, they entered the teleportation channel and headed to the Heaven Alliance as planned. Naturally, no human, demon, or spirit body could be stored in the spiritual blood pearl. However, Xiaohua's body was constructed by the laws of heaven and earth. How could it be an ordinary body? Just as the Dao Alliance believed that Xiaohua had perished, Xiaohua activated his fiend body to fight against the 177,777 souls within the baleful blood pearl, as well as that incomparably powerful teleportation energy. And just as the blood fiend spirit pearl rushed from the coiling Dragon Mountain's demonic array into the collapsed black and white silhouette, a power of teleportation that Xiaohua was familiar with came crashing down from above his head like a giant mountain, firmly pressing down on his body. This kind of enormous power far exceeded the power of ordinary teleportation. Although this power was not as vast as the power of the realm, it was still difficult for Xiaohua to resist. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qitian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and thank you, Cabbage. I'll update these few chapters for you. Chapter 49:19. And what was special was that under the power of transmission, the hundreds of thousands of blood beads began to strangely revolve within the space of the spirit blood bead. The power of hundreds of thousands of tiny soul beads gathered together, forming an unparalleled strength that Xiaohua couldn't match. It was doing its best to extract something from Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua felt that his bloodline, body, and even soul were showing signs of collapsing. He couldn't help but activate his demonic technique and reveal his demon god Dharma idol. But even so, the soul power didn't decrease much. Extremely large amounts of soul power entered Xiaohua's demonic body like invisible threads. Strange. Xiaohua was somewhat puzzled. I seem to have collected the souls of hundreds of thousands of Wen clan disciples. Why do these blood beads still have soul power? Could this be the reason why the demons wanted to take over Wen Zhou's body and borrow the bloodline of the Wen clan disciples? Thinking of the bloodline, Xiaohua was suddenly startled. After careful examination, he shouted in his heart, "Damn it! This isn't just pure soul power. And the soul power is just the surface. Under this power, there's even more bloodline power mixed in. Damn it, there's definitely something wrong with the Wen clan. That Tianmei token must have an extraordinary background. But how can it be possible to trap me with the bloodline power of hundreds of thousands of ordinary cultivators?" Immediately, Xiaohua activated the demonic flames around him to contend with the bloodline power. It seemed that Xiaohua still underestimated the bloodline power of the Wen clan disciples. After holding on for less than an hour, not only did the power of teleportation not weaken, it actually strengthened. Under the power of teleportation, the bloodline power of the demonic blood beads became even more fierce, forcing Xiaohua's demonic body to collapse again. Damn it! Xiaohua secretly clenched his teeth. I haven't recovered my strength yet, so I don't dare to activate the demonic technique too much. But now that the blood beads are so powerful, I have to take the risk. Thinking of this, Xiaohua sneered. The demonic flames around his body soared into the sky, and the strands of blood-red light fell, forming thumb-sized vortexes. Within those vortexes, the sinister blood demons were rapidly growing larger. Xiaohua first refined the power of the blood bead to protect himself, but in the end, the transmission power showed no sign of weakening at all. After more than 10 days, Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. He desperately urged the demonic power, shouting madly in his heart, "Damn it, this million spirits blood bead won't be transmitted to the demonic world, will it? It wasn't easy for me to get to the Yilin continent. If I were to break out again, how long would it take for me to come back? Big brother, where did so much blood spirit chi come from?" Just as Xiaohua was about to refine the million spirits blood pearl into his demonic body, Mo Zunshi's voice suddenly sounded. "Damn it!" Hearing the voice of the demon Zun, Xiaohua's heart moved and he involuntarily cursed in a low voice. Since the Tao Master's shadow appeared and gifted Xiaohua with the Tao seed, Xiaohua's original body and all his doppelgangers started to become complete under the influence of the Tao seed's power of law. Although Xiaohua anxiously hoped that his doppelgangers could recover as soon as possible, the demon venerable was definitely not the first one he hoped for. No matter if it was Feng Wu or the Thunderbolt Immortal, these doppelgangers were all doppelgangers that Xiaohua had truly split from his primordial spirit. Even Huang Tong was also a doppelganger that Xiaohua had split from his primordial spirit and cultivated using the phoenix celestial body. Only this demon venerable was not Xiaohua's real primordial spirit. It was only refined by Xiaohua using the blood shadow technique. Moreover, the demon venerable's original body was the demon spirit of the demon array. Although the demon venerable and Xiaohua's minds were connected, Xiaohua always felt that there would be a day when the demon venerable could not control himself. At this time, Xiaohua's strength had not recovered, and the other doppelgangers had not awakened yet. However, the demon venerable had awakened first. This could not help but arouse Xiaohua's vigilance. Sigh. Xiaohua sighed and replied, "I have fallen into the trap of a human clan cultivator who had been possessed by the demon clan." With that, Xiaohua told the whole story to the demon venerable in his heart. Humph. Hearing this, the demon venerable was furious and said anxiously, "Big brother, I have said earlier that you are too kind. Of course, I am not saying that being kind is wrong, but if you are so kind to everyone, who knows what other people are thinking? Moreover, you have just fallen into the trap, so you should have a way to leave the demon array. After all, refining the blood demon spiritual pearl requires the help of the right time, place and people. With the strength of that one Zhou ***********, it is impossible for him to make it so seamless. If you did not care about those Wen clan disciples who were killed, you and I would definitely be able to escape." Speaking to hear, the demon venerable suddenly woke up and shouted, "That's not right, why can't I move? You followed I into the Yilin continent. Our bodies were destroyed by the power of the boundary between the two worlds, and now we are slowly recovering." Xiaohua replied indifferently. Damn it. The demon venerable's curses were no different from Xiaohua's, this kind of snail-like recovery. How long will it take for me to recover to my original state? This is nothing. Xiaohua replied, "When I just broke the boundary, you were just seeds. Now that you have recovered to the point of awakening, it is already not bad. Demon venerable, how do you feel now?" The demon venerable was silent for a while, then suddenly laughed wildly, "Ha ha ha, big brother, thank you so much." Hearing the demon venerable's sudden gratitude, and the big brother from the bottom of his heart, Xiaohua suddenly felt that he was too stingy. The demon venerable was somewhat annoying, but these actions were his nature as a demon. If the demon venerable's actions were similar to that of Nanwu Mithreya, then would he still be the demon venerable? Moreover, in terms of strength, after returning from the upper realm, the demon venerable's strength was once at the forefront of all his doppelgangers, but he never showed this to his doppelgangers, and always called them big brother. How was this still the demon venerable? Sometimes, when facing the disdain of celestial beings and Reverend Yun's displeasure, the demon venerable did not dare to show any dissatisfaction, and always had a smiling face. The demon venerable might not be able to defeat Reverend Yun, but of course, his strength was stronger than celestial beings. Of course, this did not exclude the possibility that the demon venerable was afraid of Xiaohua killing him, but according to Xiaohua's current thoughts, the demon venerable liked these doppelgangers who shared the same origin as him more than he feared him. Previously, when he was in the upper realm, he had a lot of misunderstandings about Buddha Maitreya. Of course, it was because of the influence of the heavenly demon, but more importantly, it was because he did not trust himself. He had already misunderstood Buddha Maitreya, so why couldn't he give the demon venerable more trust? Xiaohua's mind was full of thoughts, but the demon venerable did not know. Xiaohua laughed again. Oh. What's wrong? What's there to thank? P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, give a monthly vote, a recommendation vote, a collection, a tip, and thank all forms of support. Thank you, Cabbage. These few chapters have been updated for you. Chapter 49-20. Big Brother, before this, I thought that my demon body was already rare in the heavens and earth. In this mortal world, I'm afraid there's no better one. Demon Sovereign Sure was pleasantly surprised. But now, I don't know how to describe this demon body. Oh, right, all the other big brothers. Are they all like this? And, since you're like this, they probably won't be any worse than you. Xiaohua heard Demon Sovereign Sure thinking about other clones and became even happier. He smiled and replied. Ha, that's good, that's good. Demon Sovereign Sure laughed, but suddenly, he was shocked again. He hurriedly said, Big brother, what's going on? How did your demon blade murder get into my body? Ah. Not to mention Demon Sovereign Sure being shocked, even Xiaohua was inexplicably shocked. Demon Blade Murder had merged with Xiaohua's left hand from the Profound Water Palace and had always been a part of Xiaohua's body. But this time, the breaking of the world was more dangerous than any other time. Xiaohua's body was reconstructed, condensed with the laws of heaven and earth. Xiaohua didn't feel the existence of Demon Blade Murder before, but Xiaohua always thought that it was because his body wasn't completely repaired. He didn't expect Demon Blade Murder to merge with Demon Sovereign Sure's body of laws. However, in just a moment, Xiaohua understood that although Demon Sovereign Sure, Sky Man, Thunder Immortal and himself had the same primordial spirit and the same laws of heaven and earth, the laws of heaven and earth were as vast as the sea. They each comprehended different laws, and thus, the laws of heaven and earth were different. Demon Sovereign Sure was from the demon race, and the laws he comprehended were the demonic side of heaven and earth. Demon Blade Murder was a killing and bloody demonic weapon. He didn't merge with Demon Sovereign Sure's body, but instead merged with Maitreya Buddha's body. What should I do? Big brother. Demon Sovereign Sure was anxious. How can I return it to you? Hee, why should I return it? Xiaohua laughed. You are me, I am you. What's there to return? Hee, that's true. Big brother, I was wrong. Demon Sovereign Sure laughed. Left and right, I'm also in Big Brother's body. Whenever Big Brother wants to use it, just pick it up. As he spoke, Demon Sovereign Sure's demonic sense swept around and shouted, Big brother. You. How is this refining a blood spirit? If the other demons knew that this level of sacrificial refining was actually this little brother's big brother, then this little brother's face as a demon lord would be lost. Please wait for a moment. Let me show you what I can do. As he spoke, Demon Venerable Sure's primordial spirit actually wanted to seize Xiaohua's corporeal body. A few moments ago, Xiaohua absolutely would not have tolerated this. He would have even used a primordial spirit mystic technique to deal with Demon Lord Shi. But after thinking about it, Xiaohua felt different. He did not feel that Demon Lord Shi had any ill intentions. He only felt that Demon Lord Shi was like a little brother who wanted to show off his skills in front of his big brother. More importantly, he was showing off. Xiaohua smiled and retracted his consciousness, allowing Demon Venerable Shi to control his body. His consciousness entered the space, taking advantage of this gap to speed up the modification of his cultivation technique. The moment Demon Lord Shi took control of Xiaohua's body, boom boom boom. Like a volcano erupting, Xiaohua's body suddenly expanded by several times. The surface of his body was originally filled with demonic qi, but demonic flames rushed out like lava. Hundreds of demonic flames rampaged inside the blood fiend's spirit bead. Whoa! Wherever the demonic flames passed, ghostly wails and howls could be heard. The power of the bloodline released by hundreds of thousands of blood beads was torn to pieces. Ayo! Demon Lord Shi raised his head and roared. Opening his mouth, the shattered blood light was all sucked into his stomach. It had to be said that the same corporeal body, the same demonic technique, under the control of the human race's Xiaohua and under the control of Demon Lord Shi, was completely different. It's just a mere blood bead. Big brother is too cautious. Demon Lord Shi sucked the power of the bloodline and actually burped. He grumbled in a low voice, since Benzin woke up first, it's Benzin's good fortune. If Benzin didn't help Big Brother, when Celestial woke up, he would probably laugh at Benzin. After speaking, Demon Lord Shi's body trembled. Tens of thousands of blood-like tentacles appeared from the demonic qi. On each tentacle, there was a blood demon head, and each blood demon head had the appearance of Demon Lord Shi. GGA. Tens of thousands of blood demons laughed wildly at the same time. Passing through the space, the blood beads that were spinning disorderly all around fell. Boom boom boom. The tentacles caught all the blood beads with lightning speed. The entire blood bead space violently trembled. The previously dense blood red that filled the space gradually faded. Another half a day passed. 90% of the Wen clan's blood essence was refined. The outside of the blood bead was no longer intertwined with black, white, and blood. It already showed a faint light. At this time, wang wang. Vibrating sounds came from outside the blood bead. Demon Lord Shi released his demonic consciousness. However, just as his demonic consciousness came out of the blood bead, an almost unparalleled tearing force appeared strangely and tore the demonic consciousness apart. Damn it! Demon Lord Shi cursed in a low voice. His head covered by the demonic helmet revealed a pair of blood-red eyes. When Demon Lord Shi saw the situation outside the blood bead, he couldn't help but be shocked. Other than the flashing blood-red demonic patterns, it was not an ordinary scene in the human world. It was an abyss. This abyss was very different from the usual abyss. There was no silence, no extreme darkness. Above the abyss, there was a sun and a moon shining brightly. There were specks of stars, and there were layers of heavens. However, all of these phenomena were not complete. It did not look like they were in the same space. The entire abyss was like a kaleidoscope. There were countless space fragments. Above each space fragment, there was a sun, a moon, and a star. Below each sun, moon, and star was an abyss. And within these fragments, there was the power of space that ordinary cultivators could not resist. The power of space naturally intertwined, forming a space storm. Wherever the space storm passed, not only did it tear apart the demon sovereign Shi's demon consciousness, but it also stirred up the fragments in the abyss, causing more fragments to appear in a dazzling manner. The demonic blood spirit bead fell into the abyss, and the demonic patterns on the surface of the bead appeared like water. Where the power of space landed, the demonic patterns produced a blood-red color. Within the scarlet light, the blood bead rotated, and the power of space was removed. Seeing this, Demon Lord Shur did not dare to refine the blood essence in the blood bead. At this time, the bloodline power in the blood bead was already weak, and could not pose any threat to Demon Lord Shur. Strange. Demon Lord Shur could not release his demonic consciousness, but looking at the strange abyss, he was puzzled. What is this place? It looks like, it is not the demonic world. That when Zhou risked his life to teleport the demonic blood spirit bead here, what is he trying to do? Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it a tip, and thank you for all of your support. Thank you to Blooming Blossoms Dying Blossoms for your tip. Chapter 49-21. However, after a moment, Demon Venerable Shur understood. Because although the Blood Fiend's spiritual pearl was in the abyss, it seemed to be drifting disorderly with the spatial storm, but it was drifting in a direction, as if there was a suction force that surpassed space that was pulling the Blood Fiend's spiritual pearl. Ha! The Demon Lord laughed. Looking at the bottom of the abyss, he laughed maniacally. Looks like this lord is an uninvited guest. This lord would like to see what these demon bastards want to do here. The place where the Blood Fiend's spiritual pearl was drifting was an irregular spatial fragment. This spatial fragment looked no different from other spatial fragments. Its surface was uneven, and there were some strange sceneries coming from within. Moreover, when this fragment rotated with the spatial storm at the bottom of the abyss, there were also fluctuations coming from the edges of the fragment. However, occasionally, when the spatial fragment flipped, a layer of faint, almost invisible devil flame would spurt out from the point of contact between the two surfaces that seemed to have been cut by a knife. Within the demon flame, circles of black and white demon mark could be seen. The demon mark released a strange suction force that surpassed the spatial storm and landed on the demon mark on the surface of the Blood Fiend's spiritual pearl. What's going on? A voice that was even softer than a mosquito's sounded from the demon flame. Not to mention that the entire abyss was shrouded in spatial storms. Even in the quiet night, if one did not pay attention, one would not be able to hear it. Within this irregular spatial fragment, a demon wearing a set of demon armor and with a body that was over 1,000 feet tall was looking at the pentagonal demon mark above his head. He was whispering anxiously. It was hard to tell what shape this demon had. It was neither human nor beast. There were all kinds of ferocious-looking demon heads on the demon armor. Only under the demon helmet, there was a blood-red hole that emitted cryptic demon language. We've been scheming for nearly 4,000 years and finally found 49 clans with bloodlines different from ordinary cultivators. Now, we've gathered the blood essence of nearly 9 million human cultivators from 48 clans. We're only missing the last blood evil spirit pearl condensed by the 170,000 human cultivators from the One clan on Coiling Dragon Mountain. We can't let anything go wrong. An obscure voice came from afar. The demon clan's demon helmet turned and looked at the other side of the space. He saw that this space was similar to the inside of the Blood Fiend's spiritual pearl. It was also filled with demon chi and bloody light. At the top of the space, there were 48 Blood Fiend spiritual pearls of different shades but identical shapes floating everywhere. Under each of the 48 Blood Demon spirit pearls, there was a similarly shapeless devil clan. Under the light of the Blood Demon spirit pearls, these devil clan members were surrounded by blood shadows. Each blood shadow swayed with the light. They were either devil clan members or devil clan members. The voice came from the mouth of a demon. Demon. The demon in demon armor looked at the demon shadow and said coldly, "Don't worry. Yuku's Blood Fiend's spirit pearl has already been successfully refined, and he has already activated the blood demon push. Humph, you have already said this 7 times. One of the demon beasts snorted coldly. We are all within the blood fiend returning to who formation, and we can feel the power of the last blood fiend spiritual pearl. If we didn't use the blood fiend spiritual pearl to guide it, do you think that Yuku's blood fiend spiritual pearl would be able to cross half of the Yilin continent to reach the heaven sacrificial abyss? That's right. The problem is that the blood fiend spiritual pearl should have returned to its place long ago. The demon person who spoke earlier continued, if we miss this time, we will have to wait another 1,000 years to revive Demon Lord Ju. Speaking of Demon Lord Ju, all the demons retracted the demon flame around them and looked down. Far below them, there was a vast sea of demon chi. In the demon chi, there were blood fiend spiritual pearls flashing like fish. In the center of the demon chi, there was a demon body that was more than 10,000 feet tall. It was like an island in the sea, majestic and unmoving. Although the demon body was not complete, it could be seen clearly. This demon body looked like a cow but not a cow, like a horse but not a horse. Wasn't this the Di Luo that Xiaohua saw in the 1,000-feet mountain cave? However, the place where the Di Luo's head used to be was now empty. An extremely dim blood fiend spiritual pearl rushed out from Di Luo's demon body and condensed into a blurry shadow in that empty place. However, a kind of chi that was as solid as a rock and as vast as the sky leaked out from this broken demon body and covered the entire space. These demons did not dare to get close to this demon body. Even when they looked at it, a kind of longing and a kind of subservience arose in their hearts. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At the moment when the demons looked at the demon body, a sea breeze seemed to blow. The vast demon chi suddenly rolled up and rushed to the sky like a storm. The Yin astral moment has arrived. A demon in the shadow of a demon beast hurriedly said. What should we do? Following this sentence, the 48 demons all looked at the center of the blood fiend returning formation. There, a demon beast whose demon body was obviously bigger than the other demons was under the influence of the blood fiend returning formation. The demon flame around his body, along with the demon chi, rose to a height of nearly 1,000 feet. We're not waiting anymore. The demon beast did not hesitate at all. It seemed that he had made a decision long ago. He said, we've sent the 48 blood fiend spiritual pearls from all over the Yilin continent to this place. This has already attracted the attention of the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance. If we don't activate the demon formation this time, I'm afraid we won't have another chance in the future. As for the blood fiend spiritual pearl of the One family, I'm afraid that if something goes wrong, the cultivators of the Tao Alliance will follow the blood fiend spiritual pearl and chase after us. Although we can't completely revive Demon Master Ju, as long as Demon Master Ju can wake up, we'll have done a great service. As the demon race spoke, the demonic aura below them began to condense into a pillar of chi that gradually extended into the sky. Above the demon race's heads, an extremely cold and dark energy was also born, passing through the fragment and entering the space. Looking at the demon master's still corpse, it seemed to have been disturbed. It actually began to sway, as if it wanted to rise. Holy! All of a sudden, the leader of the demons let out an angry roar, emitting a strange rhythm. Then, he opened his mouth, and a human-shaped blood shadow rushed out from the demonic light, directly landing on the blood fiend spirit pearl above his head. Sage! Following the demon beast leader's roar, the 46 demons were all shocked, and each of them sent the blood fiend spiritual pearl. Buzz buzz buzz. The 48 blood fiend spiritual pearls shone brightly with blood-red light, flying towards the source of the yin energy. At the same time, the demon chi that had originally condensed into a huge pillar was also attracted by the blood fiend spiritual pearl's blood-red light, turning into 48 demon pillars and entering the blood fiend spiritual pearl. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Chidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and once again, thank you to Cabbage, Blossoming Blossom Withering Flower, East Becomes West Old, Benben, as well as all the fellow Taoists who supported the third place winner. Chapter 49-22. Boom, boom, boom. Like meteorites landing on the ground, 48 loud sounds came from above the Blood Demon Spirit Pearl. When the yin energy was hit by the Blood Demon Spirit Pearl, it was as if the transparent water was dyed with blood. 48 huge demonic marks suddenly appeared and then gathered above the demon ancestor's body. In just a moment, the 48 demonic marks gathered together and actually formed a demonic mark that covered the entire space. The yin energy above the demonic mark rumbled and the demonic mark produced an indescribable fluctuation. This fluctuation tore apart the space near the demonic mark and the demonic mark began to distort. Under the demonic mark, the bloodline power and soul power that could tear apart Xiao Hua's body condensed together. Following the distortion of the demonic mark, the two mysterious powers of heaven and earth began to pass through the space and fell on the demon ancestor's body that was gradually rising. As the bloodline power and soul power penetrated the demon ancestor's body, the demon ancestor's body gradually revealed the color of blood. Moreover, the faint aura from before became extremely dense. At this moment, woo! A sharp screech came from the side of the yin energy. The last blood demon spirit pearl that had almost lost all of its blood color finally passed through the abyss and came out from the space crack and fell into the fragment space. Holy! The last demon ancestor had been standing at the side of the fragment space and waiting. Seeing the blood demon spirit pearl coming, he didn't have time to examine it carefully. He roared and opened his mouth. Woo! The blood light immediately rushed into the sky and landed on the blood demon spirit pearl. However, what made the demon ancestor stunned was that when the blood light landed, the blood demon spirit pearl didn't emit blood light like the other 48 blood demon spirit pearls. Instead, when the blood light landed on the blood demon spirit pearl, gotcha! A series of dull cracking sounds came from the blood demon spirit pearl. Under the demon ancestor's stunned eyes, cracks appeared on the surface of the blood demon spirit pearl that was covered with demonic marks. What is going on? The demon ancestor was stunned and didn't know what to do. Boom! At this moment, the sound of an explosion suddenly came out. The blood demon spirit pearl actually broke into pieces. Kakaka! A burst of arrogant laughter came out from the broken blood demon spirit pearl. Following this laughter, a majestic aura that was even more vast and mighty than the demon ancestors rippled out from the blood demon spirit pearl. In an instant, it covered the entire space. Mo! Demon Lord. Not to mention this demon, even the 48 demons in the spatial fragment were at a complete loss. Murderous demon flew out from the blood bead. His body immediately swelled up, and in just a blink of an eye, he had become a few thousand feet tall. Demon Venerable sure didn't need to look in any other direction. He immediately looked at Demon Venerable Jew's remains and couldn't help but sneer, Demon Venerable's remains. Who would have thought that there would still be the remains of the Demon Realm's Demon Lord in the Yilan continent? As Demon Venerable Sure laughed, he raised his head to look at the sky. Seeing the 48 blood droplets, as well as the power of the bloodline, the power of the soul, and the power of the yin astral force, the smile on Demon Venerable Sure's face became even wider. He could not help but cry out, "This is great! This sovereign was just worried about where to get enough blood spirit energy. This is great! This is all ready-made. Even if Big Brother knows, he will definitely not blame this sovereign." After speaking, Demon Venerable Sure opened his mouth. Woo! A stream of demonic chi mixed with blood rushed out, instantly turning into 48 demons, madly pouncing towards the 49 demons. These 49 demons were at most at the Demon Commander or Demon King level. How could they be a match for Demon Venerable? When the blood demons rushed over, these demons all exploded into blood and entered the mouths of the demons. Immediately, the 48 blood demons rushed into the blood demon spirit pearls, and all of the blood demon spirit pearls spun even more crazily than before. Almost limitless astral force, souls, and bloodline continuously flowed into Demon Venerable's body. Demon Venerable blocked Demon Venerable's remains, and the remains naturally fell from the sky, landing in the sea of demonic chi. It was still like an uninhabited island, floating alone. A few years passed in the blink of an eye. Seeing that the luster of the dozens of blood fiend spiritual pearls was becoming transparent, and the unparalleled astral force was gradually weakening, Demon Venerable grinned and laughed. "Big brother, come out quickly. If you are any later, the souls of these humans will also be devoured by this little brother." After speaking, the demonic chi on the surface of Demon Venerable's body quickly shrank, and the moment Xiaohua's body appeared, shua. Another demonic light flashed, and Demon Venerable flew out from Xiaohua's bloodline. Xiaohua's mind came out from the space, looking left and right. Golden light flashed around his body, transforming into a Taoist robe. When Demon Venerable devoured the blood demon spirit pearls, Xiaohua already knew everything that happened in the space fragment. He lowered his head to look at Demon Venerable's remains, and frowned. "Sure, do you know anything from the memories of those demons?" Demon Venerable shrugged, smiled and said, "Little brother already told big brother everything I know. As for why Demon Venerable's remains are here, little brother doesn't know." Is this thing useful to you?" Xiaohua asked thoughtfully. If little brother didn't use the laws of heaven and earth to condense the body, this thing would naturally be useful. After little brother devours it, not only can it refine the demonic body, it can also devour the cultivation of this Demon Venerable. Demon Venerable smiled and said, "But now, if little brother uses it to refine the demonic body, it will be neglecting the essentials. Moreover, this Demon Venerable's cultivation, to be honest, is much lower than little brother's, so there's no harm in not devouring it." "That's good." Xiaohua smiled and said, "If you don't have any use for it, give it to Zhang Qingshao." "Of course." Demon Venerable nodded. Big brother's second senior brother is little brother's second senior brother. Previously, big brother told little brother to leave some blood demon spirit pearls. Little brother understood. "Since that's the case, keep these things, we will rush to Wu Meng mountain range." Xiaohua smiled and ordered. Demon Venerable raised his hand and grabbed, and 48 blood demon spirit pearls fell into his demonic palm. Demon Venerable withdrew his demonic palm, and a burst of demonic chi surged, and dozens of blood demon spirit pearls actually condensed into one. "Go!" Demon Venerable waved his hand again, and the blood demon spirit pearl fell into the sky. Puff! Demon Venerable opened his mouth again, and spat out a mouthful of demonic blood, hitting the blood demon spirit pearl, and an even more mysterious demonic pattern than before appeared. At the same time, the blood demon spirit pearls slowly rotated, and actually turned into a fist-sized whirlpool, and the sea of demonic chi instantly rushed into the whirlpool. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward. Thank you for all forms of support. Thank you, Benbin, Lovely Broken String, Sunset Cloud Flight, and other fellow Taoists. I don't have any more chapters. Chapter 49-23. Xiaohua had only absorbed a small part of the demonic chi, but the remains of the Demon Venerable Ju had already begun to appear. When Di Luo's hoof fell into Xiaohua's eyes, roar. A dragon-like roar suddenly came out from the remains of Di Luo. Demon Venerable and Xiaohua's complexion changed at the same time. They looked at each other and said in unison, "Demon blade murder." Sure enough, as the man and the demon cried out in alarm, a pitch-black saber tip eerily appeared from the demonic energy. This saber tip didn't seem real at all, as if it were in this space and also outside of this space. The space around the saber tip twisted and even light that fell into the saber tip was cut in half, unable to reflect any light at all. From the blade tip, a sky-piercing murderous aura appeared. This aura was exactly the same as the demon blade murder that had fused with Xiao Hua's left hand before. Roar! When the blade tip of the demon blade murder appeared, it immediately produced a dragon-like roar. The blade tip flashed and was about to cut open the space fragment and rush out. How could the demon Venerable Sure let the fat meat in his hand slip away? He raised his hand and the demon blade murder that had already fused with him appeared. A wave of murderous aura that could engulf the heaven and earth gushed out and fused with the blade tip's aura. Roar! The blade tip whistled again. This time, it seemed to be filled with joy. It changed its direction and pounced on the demon blade murder. Caw! With a crisp sound, the blade tip landed on the broken part of the broken blade and perfectly fused with it. Immediately, an even more ferocious aura rushed out from the demon blade murder. Not only did it fill up the space, it even penetrated the void and penetrated into the abyss outside of the space fragment. Gotcha! The sound of thunder rose again. A strange pitch-black lightning appeared on top of the space fragment. Countless light shadows twisted and fell down with a loud bang. Xiao Hua was originally happy for the demon Venerable Sure, but the moment the blade tip touched the broken blade, a mysterious feeling came from his left arm. A completely different world law from Xiao Hua's body quietly appeared. Xiao Hua couldn't help but exclaim, "Ouch! What's going on?" However, he didn't have time to look anymore. Demon Venerable Sure's left arm gushed out a wave of demonic chi and blood light, and the demon blade murder and the blade tip were absorbed into his body. Shwa! Above his head, the strange lightning disappeared like the wind. The light shadows also disappeared into the void. Interesting. Xiao Hua did not pay attention to Demon Lord Sure. Instead, he was comprehending a different part of the laws of heaven and earth on his left arm. He thought to himself, this part of the laws of heaven and earth must belong to Demon Blade Sure. But hadn't the demonic saber Sure already fused with the demon sovereign Sure? Why is there an additional law in this Xiao's left arm? Moreover, this law seems to be a little messy and not complete. Presumably, it's because the devil's saber murder wasn't completely refined. Thinking up to here, Xiao Hua was suddenly startled, and a thought flashed through his mind. This thought was like a bolt of lightning that illuminated his thoughts. If this law is the devil's saber murder, then repairing the devil's saber murder is repairing this law. Then, wasn't refining slaughtered devil's saber the same as refining a Tao law? Where did the murderous devil blade, this law, come from? Could it be that these were the materials used to refine the demonic saber murder? Could the materials also be some laws? If these laws were fused together with the demon realm's blood refining technique to form a new law, would this law become the demonic blade murder? If that's the case, then all magic tools, demonic tools, imperial tools, and so on, and even spirit pills, wouldn't they all be a kind of heaven and earth law? It's just that because the heaven and earth law isn't the same, the amount of profoundness contained in the law is different, the forms they manifest are also different, and the magnitude of their power is also different. If that's the case, then wouldn't everything in this world be condensed from the law? It's not only this Xiao's body that's like this, but the bodies of other cultivators and the bodies of people in the secular world should also be like this. Xiao Hua truly had a feeling that with a single thought, all thoughts were born. Or perhaps, the cultivation of us cultivators is to find the law within the body and strengthen this law. And in the end, like this Xiao's body that is completely constructed from the law. Xiao Hua was just thinking about it excitedly. Woo woo. Woo woo. A strange chanting sound suddenly came from the demon sovereign Ju's broken body, and then he saw a myriad of pure and holy brilliance rush out from the remnant devil chi in the air like sharp swords. Within the brilliance, there were unknown tree branches, flowing streams, and small winged spirit bodies appearing. A pure and holy aura also leaked out from this illusory figure, tenaciously strengthening in the space where the devil chi was wreaking havoc. This. Xiao Hua stopped thinking, and when his gaze fell on the pure and holy brilliance, he couldn't help but be stunned. A feeling of disbelief appeared in his heart, but he also had a kind of absolute premonition that he seemed to have thought of something. Immediately after, he hurriedly looked at the demon sovereign Ju's broken body that was covered in the pure and holy brilliance. Sure enough, the originally faint demon sovereign aura now poured out from the broken body like a flood. That aura controlled the devil chi and turned it into countless devil marks, turning them into ferocious devils that covered the sky and earth as they fell towards the brilliance. And within the pure and holy brilliance, the originally pure spirit bodies instantly transformed into battle generals wearing battle armor, chanting battle songs as they rushed towards the devils. For a moment, the pitch-black devil fists and the pure and holy brilliance tangled together, and the entire space was filled with a dense aura of life and death. Damn it! Seeing that the pure and holy brilliance pierced through the devil chi and landed on the demon sovereign Ju's broken body, the devil marks on the broken body either resisted or collapsed, and the originally broken body began to collapse even more. Xiao Hua cursed in a low voice, and raised his head to look at the demon sovereign Shi. The demon sovereign Shi was also stunned at this moment. He also looked at the pure and holy brilliance in disbelief, and a trace of innate fear actually appeared in his eyes. Xiao Hua shouted, "Sure, at this point, what are you still hesitating for? Damn it!" Xiao Hua's words woke the demon sovereign Shi up. He couldn't help but grin and shout, "Big brother, could it be that this little brother saw wrongly? Isn't this the Holy Light Realm's holy light? How can there be holy light in the Yilin continent?" Hearing the demon sovereign Shi's words, Xiao Hua's face was filled with doubt, but he did not say much, and anxiously shouted, "There's no need to say any more, quickly take away the demon sovereign Ju's body, this demon sovereign's body is extremely important to Zhang Qingshao." Hee hee. The demon sovereign Shi chuckled, "Don't worry, big brother. Although the Holy Light Realm's holy light is the same as the Buddhist light of the Buddhist sect, and is the natural nemesis of the demon clan, this holy light is clearly released by some kind of holy artifact. It originally had no owner, so how could it be a match for this little brother? Let's see how this little brother will destroy this holy artifact." P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Also, I didn't have a full subscription group before, but under the suggestion of a fellow Taoist, I created a WeChat full subscription group. Before entering, please contact the Cultivation Gods Customer Services WeChat XYCQ1186258881CU, and ask him to add all of you who have fully subscribed. Chapter 49-24. While speaking, Demon Lord Shi waved his left hand, and Demon Blade Shi let out an explosive sound, and an extremely fierce black light immediately appeared. "Don't be anxious." Xiao Hua's heart moved, and he hurriedly said, "Just protect Demon Lord Ju's body, Big Brother will go down and take a look." Demon Lord Shi was startled, and he was somewhat hesitant. Although he was not afraid of this holy light, he was still unwilling to see a holy weapon that could emit holy light in this world. However, since Xiao Hua had spoken, Demon Lord Shi had no reason to not agree. He hurriedly shouted, "All right, big brother, be careful." While speaking, Demon Lord Shi withdrew his blade, and threw Demon Blade Sure to Demon Lord Ju's side. Ao ao ao. Countless demonic chi and blood demons roared as they rushed out from Demon Blade Sure, and crazily pounced towards the holy light. What was special was that the demonic chi that was fighting with the holy light was also boiling, as if it had seen its reinforcements, and it was energized as it pounced into the holy light. In just a moment, all of the holy light was suppressed by the demonic chi, and the entire space was once again filled with the smell of blood. Xiaohua slightly frowned, and urged his body to enter the demonic chi. After passing through the area where the demonic chi and the holy light were fighting, he finally arrived at a place of light. This place of light was not big, and was much smaller than the space enveloped by the demonic chi. When Xiaohua entered, a burst of hymns immediately sounded in his ears, and a spirit body with a pair of transparent wings hovered around him. Similarly, a bunch of unknown tree branches also appeared around him. A kind of otherworldly, holy, quiet, and peaceful feeling emerged from the bottom of Xiaohua's heart. This is the angel that Vairocana Buddha spoke of. Xiaohua squinted his eyes, and looked at the spirit body, and thought to himself, these spirit bodies are like children, and they look much cuter than the Buddhist sex fairies. What is this song? Why does it sound like the Buddhist sex scriptures, and it gives off a sense of tranquility? What does this water flow mean? After looking for a moment, Xiaohua released his divine sense, wanting to check the situation of the space, but when he released his divine sense, he found something strange. This space was different from the space enveloped by devil chi. Divine sense was somewhat restricted, like some milk. However, Xiaohua's divine sense was strong enough that these restrictions were nothing. With a sweep of his divine sense, he could see everything within the space. In the blink of an eye, the previously adorable children's appearances had changed greatly. After Xiaohua's divine sense swept over them, the children's figures suddenly swelled up and transformed into robust human figures. However, this humanoid figure looked like a man and looked like a general. Strange armor appeared on the surface of the bodies of these battle generals. Those transparent wings became thicker and longer. Long spears appeared in the hands of these battle generals. Within the light, thousands of battle generals had already formed a battle formation, as though they were on guard. Not to mention that these so-called war generals were merely spiritual projections in the holy light. Even if they were real spiritual bodies, how could Xiaohua fear them? Xiaohua only smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, he blocked the holy light. The thousands of spiritual projections were annihilated, and the figure fell into the space. This was because he could already clearly see that at the bottom of the space, there was a fist-sized vessel. The holy light in the entire space was emitting from this vessel. However, Xiaohua still underestimated this vessel. When he was only 100 zhang away from the vessel, ha. Another resounding hymn pierced into Xiaohua's heart like a long spear. Countless waves of holy light overflowed from the vessel. Within these waves, a human figure wearing a pure white robe stood on top of the vessel. This human figure's appearance was not very clear, but that pair of eyes full of compassion and pity were abnormally clear. Moreover, at the corner of those eyes, there was a faint teardrop. Following the appearance of this human figure, a burst of heaven and earth power spontaneously appeared and blocked Xiaohua's advance. Ah! Xiaohua was a little shocked. Right now, although he had not recovered his 10th grade essence power, he still had the strength of a middle 9th grade essence power. How could a normal spiritual treasure's aura possibly block his advance? Xiaohua could not help but secretly ponder, who is this human figure? Why does a mere projection have such power? This holy light realm is a little strange. No wonder this saint artifact was suppressed under the demon lord's remnant body. After looking for a while, Xiaohua raised his hand and saluted. Not caring if that projection could hear him, he looked into the eyes of that human figure and said, "Fellow Taoist, I, Xiaohua, greet you. Although I do not know what kind of almighty you are from the Holy Light Realm, nor do I know what kind of saint artifact this vessel is. However, I do not have any evil intentions. I want to suppress the demon lord's body, so I cannot avoid releasing this saint artifact. And since this saint artifact is being suppressed, I believe that releasing this saint artifact will have a bad influence on the Dao sects of the Yilin continent. Therefore, I want to keep this saint artifact. In the future, if I have the fate to meet fellow Taoists from the Holy Light Realm, I will return this saint artifact to the Holy Light Realm. Xiaohua had a clear conscience, and his gaze was naturally clear. As he spoke, his eyelids did not even blink. What was a little strange was that as Xiaohua's voice landed, the hymn actually calmed down, and the spiritual body in the light figure once again turned into a child. Then I will make my move. As Xiaohua spoke, he slowly raised his hand. Rumble. In the midst of a huge explosion, a hand of lightning light produced a strong restriction, imprisoning the space around the vessel. Once the restriction was in place, the hymn above the vessel once again became incomparably sharp. The holy light was extremely resplendent, as if it was going to pierce through the void. Even the gaze of that human figure of light changed a little. My apologies. As Xiaohua spoke, he suddenly activated his magic power. Woo-woo. As if crying, as if in grief, the holy light was suddenly annihilated. That human figure of light also collapsed, entering the vessel. Once the light disappeared, the demonic energy and blood figure above Xiaohua's head loudly fell, enveloping the entire space. However, after a few breaths, the surging demonic energy like a receding tide fell into Demon Sovereign Ju's remnant body. Demon Sovereign Shu opened his mouth, and a blood light fell. Demon Sovereign Shu's remnant body rapidly shrank, turning into the size of a palm, and was sealed in a blood crystal. The Sacred Light Realm's artifact fell into Xiaohua's hand. A sweet fragrance wafted out from the artifact. This fragrance carried a medicinal smell. Xiaohua looked at it and didn't think too much about it. He also sealed it with his hand and threw it into the space. Big brother. Demon Sovereign Shu happily landed, and said with a smile, "Little brother is fortunate to have not failed you." As he spoke, Demon Sovereign Shu handed the blood crystal to Xiaohua. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, cast a monthly vote, cast a recommendation vote, collect a gift, and thank you for all forms of support. In addition, I didn't have a full subscription group before, but under the suggestion of a fellow Taoist, I created a WeChat full subscription group. Before entering, please contact the Cultivation Gods customer service on WeChat XYCQ1186258881CU, and let him add you to the full subscription group. You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.